Where they are set up for quarterback draw big time.
There it is. Good call, Andre. Brewer scores. Touchdown, Baylor.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Inside the 15. With Bryce Young. Young is going to take off running. Bryce Young, touchdown, Alabama. Does it with his arms, and now he does it with his legs.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Texas has got to come back to the left side here if they're going to have success.
And they do. Robinson flushed. Touchdown, Texas.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
First down, Smith with running room. Abram Smith picking him up, puts him down. Abram Smith down inside the 10.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Not only is it high, it is far, and Turpin makes one man miss. Let's see what kind of magic he has again. Turpin, Jitterbug, Turpin, can he do it again? Cavante Turpin, gone. Touchdown Cowboys, 72 yards.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And guess what? The college football season begins this week. Not many games, a handful of games, and we'll focus on one of them earlier in the show today. But college football, the season begins this week, and of course, just a bunch of games following that, and then forever until they wrap up the national championship in January. Paul Catalina to my left, Craig Smoak to my right, David Smoak in studio today. Again, Garrett Ross, also Jacob Wilson. Emery Winter is here today, and we appreciate everybody for being a part of where we are, whether it's the chat room, the text line, 254-339-1122, and watching and listening to the show. There'll be a couple of quarterback stories that we'll have today. Also, former TCU star Cavante Turpin, who was dismissed from the team, may have given the Cowboys some life. We'll get to that. It's the opening week of the Texas high school football season as well. And we will have a very special announcement later on today about this show and also what we do on the weekends. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, former Baylor quarterback Charlie Brewer gave it a shot. Utah didn't work. Cam Rising, it did. And now he's been named the starter in his final year of eligibility at Liberty.
Yeah, that's it's a little bit surprising to me that Charlie's still playing, and I think the concern that I just have was he did not look like he was healthy on his way out the door here at Baylor, and I'm not sure that you get better, over time when you've taken as much punishment as Charlie has. But best of luck to him at Liberty. I think that's probably a little bit of a drop-off from Malik Willis to him. But, Liberty's never had a guy like Malik Willis before, so whoever that was going to be was probably going to be a drop-off. And I'm curious to see how it goes at Liberty for him because it did not go well at Utah.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the same thing and thought the same thing in regards to Charlie at Baylor, but we do realize that's been 2 years now. So 2 different coaching staffs have allowed him to play football since he left Waco. So for all of us, couch scientists and couch doctors that were diagnosing him when he was playing in Waco, I understand why we all thought the way that we did. But, that's some serious malpractice of Utah's training staff, and Liberty's training staff have now said, oh, wow, you were really banged up and not healthy. Go play football for us. So I think it's about time for us to just kind of let his time at Baylor.
I don't think that's I wasn't clear. I think that sometimes everybody hits the wall.
Yeah.
I think he's hit the wall.
I agree. I have that reaction because everybody has tried to retire him now 500 times since he was playing, even when he was playing in Waco.
Yeah.
Like halfway through the season, people are like, he should retire. I think he's got this. And, here he is. He's still playing football. So we're all not doctors for a reason, but – I am surprised, too. He took a lot of punishment when he was in Waco. That was not a good showing last year for Utah. And then Cam Rising comes onto the scene and basically takes them all the way to a Pac-12 championship. So that was very forgettable. And I thought pretty much at that point that his time was done. But here he is popping up at Liberty. And, I have my thoughts on that program and kind of what they do. And, I know that they're not really a fan favorite, so I'm not sure how much burn Charlie's really going to get outside of this show and maybe some shows out there in that area, that neck of the woods. But good for him to have the opportunity, I guess. And I know he loves playing football, so good for him to be able to continue living that dream.
They are a program that's on the up, and they have been now for the last 3 or 4 years. What?
That's not why people don't like him, though.
I know. It's still relevant because Charlie Brewer played at Baylor, and so if he was at Troy and won the starting job, or UAB, like, of course, we've seen others, we would discuss it. Whether or not he can be successful there remains to be seen. I wish him the best. Charlie Brewer now named as the starter, according to head coach Hugh Freeze. And saying, I think I fit the offense pretty well. And it's play fast, which is where I've been at my best throughout my career, playing fast with all sorts of RPOs in this offense. Really, that's what intrigued me. And Coach Freeze's track record with quarterbacks. Also, by the way, John Manson, who writes A Sea of Red, covers Liberty, will join us today at 4:30 to discuss Charlie Brewer and Liberty. There's college football this weekend. One of the games in Dublin, Ireland, Nebraska, and Northwestern. We'll touch in on that with those writers who will be a part of the show today, and they will then leave for their long trip this week to go cover a game in Dublin, Ireland. I'm not sure how much that game has any kind of oomph at all because Northwestern was terrible last year. Nebraska, of course, has been a mess, but they do kick off the season coming up this weekend. Also today, Travis Roeder. He's an amazing analyst for us, Sikkim 365 football analyst. Will discuss some things with us at 5. David Hellman on the Cowboys at 5:30. And then there was a story in ESPN.com, Craig and Paul, Dave Wilson, who we know. Dave Wilson wrote the story about Dave Aranda. And what I appreciated about his story, about the uniqueness of Dave Aranda, he took some stories that we ourselves have said and discussed and reported, but he didn't just copy and paste. He went in even deeper to some of what Dave Aranda has said over the years, or at least in the last 24 months since he took over the job. Not 24 months, not quite, but since the 2 seasons under Baylor. Dave Wilson today will join us at 4 o'clock from ESPN.com. Now, let's see. Baylor has 2 players named to the second-team All-American team, Siaki Ika and also Connor Galvin. Not a surprise. Both are really, really good, and they are named second-team All-Americans for the Associated Press.
Connor Galvin really came back with a chip on his shoulder after, last year, was first-team All-Big 12 and didn't really get when he asked for what his draft profile was going to be, didn't like the answer he heard, and wanted to come back and prove some things. So it'll be interesting there. And Siaki Ika is a guy who could wind up pretty high in the draft if his ceiling continues to elevate, because they don't build guys like that all that often. And you saw how quickly Jordan Davis shot up the charts once the light came on for him at Georgia, and he's got that kind of huge dude who's also really athletic and quick and super strong and disruptive. I would not be surprised to see him climbing up the people noticing him all over the country this year.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two most obvious guys that if you were to, play the guessing game of who's going to be a preseason All-American, I mean, those would be your top two, and I don't even know if they've really got a third candidate outside of maybe a Dylan Doyle. I think a lot of their other guys are probably just not that well known at this point or haven't proven it just yet to that level, but those two certainly have, and I'd throw, Doyle in that mix, like I said, as well. But, yeah, there's high expectations. I mean, Ika, in theory, this isn't his last year, but very well likely would be if he has a supremely good year, because there will be some NFL attention on a guy who is as big and strong as he is and who plays a position where there's just not a lot of bodies typically. I mean, the fact that Baylor's got 2-3 guys at the nose tackle spot when some in the country can't even find a single, regular nose tackle is just, a testament to their recruiting and kind of the way they built this thing up. And, of course, it's not always going to be that way, but right now it is, and that's part of the reason why there's a feeling that this season could be special. And, same thing with Galvin and the offensive line. They're rolling at least 2 deep at pretty much every position, and he's the anchor of it at left tackle. So, yeah, I mean, your left tackle and your nose are going to be, the two biggest stars of the two biggest, most deep positions on your roster. So those guys are certainly expected to be standouts.
Sonny Dykes saying that he could or thinks all 3 quarterbacks that he has will play against Colorado in their opener. Duggan, Morris, I'm missing somebody.
Sam Jackson.
Sam Jackson. So that's from Stephen Johnson, who joined us last week to discuss TCU. Chandler Morris, Jackson, and Duggan. Duggan has been a starter among all of them the most, many times. Very dynamic runner as well. And then, of course, Chandler Morris riddled Baylor's defense in that game up in Fort Worth last year. And then after that, things kind of leveled off.
Yeah, I mean, from what we heard last week, Chandler Morris looks like could be the guy, the starter, and that he will take the first snaps. But Max Duggan's got a lot of, battle scars, and he's done a lot of things for that TCU team, so they could have packages for him. And I would assume the playing the third quarterback thing means that they're going to have packages for Sam Jackson, who's super athletic. But I would ultimately lean towards the Chandler Morris is probably going to be the guy there.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I really only saw a ton of him versus Baylor, and I'm going off of that. So I think probably a lot of us are that watched him. We're like, yeah, Chandler Morris, remember that Baylor game? But I mean, what are we saying outside of that? Does anybody even cite anything outside of that? No, they don't. They talk about one single game where just, a lot of stuff went haywire, and he had himself a day. But outside of that, nobody talks about him. So I don't mean that to disparage him. I just mean that to say, like, I think our opinions on him are probably a little tainted because of that one game.
But Sonny Dykes' offense, too.
No, I'm not talking about your opinion on that. I'm just saying, like, in general, I think that for Chandler Morris, that's what you think about. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see him actually get out there and get some burn. And I, too, think he'll probably be the guy. But, I mean, shoot, Max Duggan's been there for a long time now. And, we'll see if the, wild card third quarterback can make it an more interesting race. But, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, you do it early on in the season. But, yeah, you'd think that either Morris or Duggan at this point would break through and be the guy. But, maybe they have a multi-quarterback system that works for them this year. That'll be interesting to see. That's just an interesting team in general with the new coaching staff and the new look that they have after so many years.
Garrett, do you have the UCF tweet? Don't have it yet, but I'll put that up in a second. One from Gus Malzahn or whoever I sent to you.
All right, now here's an out there theory on why he says they'll play 3 quarterbacks. He is so supremely confident that they're going to blow out Colorado that he says they're going to play 3. I don't know, but
here's from Gus Malzahn, excited to announce John Rice Plumlee is our starting quarterback. John, Keene was a part of that conversation as well. Some UCF fans seemed like they were somewhat surprised by this. Paul, where did he play, Plumlee, before?
Played at Ole Miss.
He's now the quarterback at UCF. And there's other jobs that have also been announced as well.
Garrett knows him well because he had the best game of his life against LSU where he ran for 3 very long touchdowns. A real fast guy, John Rice Plumlee. But since then, we haven't seen much of him. So we'll see what happens down. I think it was 2019, Garrett, when that happened? Yeah, so that's been 3 years ago when that game happened. So we'll see what happens down the line at UCF. But Gus Malzahn has a pretty darn good record with quarterbacks and at least getting the most out of them.
All right, did you guys read at all? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Some of what Dave Wilson wrote about Aranda.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He brought up everything from the Berenstain Bears to to the rabbit, to everything else as well, and how he is different. And he also made this comment that he actually, Aranda saying that 3 out of every 10 prospects really are fits for Baylor for what they want. That, you'd like to have all of them, but there are certain things at Baylor and who he is and what they're looking for. And on top of that, they're not able to go get the cream of the crop. And they're probably, if somebody wants to come, obviously Novosad's a very highly rated quarterback among some others. But I thought that was very interesting. And he said, listen, 3 out of every 10 fit who we are. And now the question is, you got to find out exactly who those 3 are.
Well, yeah, you're probably not going to get all 3 of those guys every time. So that adds to the challenge. But it's recruiting for a place like Baylor, and not to the same level. But if you want, especially when you decided to set a standard on who the guys you want that you want fits, program fits, not just guys with big stars after their name, but guys whose personality fits the program, you kind of have to recruit in the way that David Shaw does at Stanford. Look, David Shaw can't just walk in and say, man, that guy's really fast. I hope he's good at school. He knows before he walks into a place, this guy can cut it at Stanford academically or he can't. And with Baylor, part of that is the academics and part of that is just what Dave Aranda wants for the culture fit of his guys on his team.
There was a point where Coach Johnson, their defensive line coach at Baylor, said he walked up to Aranda, who was at the locker after they had just won the national championship, and it looked like, it didn't say miserable, he just didn't look happy. There was something missing, and LSU had just won the national championship. And he said, Aranda said, I felt like I was at LSU, like I was a machine. I didn't really talk. I got to a point where I was there long enough to where people kind of understood that, and they would protect me or shield me from talking, and then just because it became worse, I would remove myself. I just wouldn't engage more than anything. He has mentioned that to me and others before, that he just felt like it was too much, that football was just, not that it's not a big deal, and not that it's not a big deal at Baylor and what he's doing, but it was overwhelming him with who he was, and he felt like he was becoming more and more of an introvert. And the opportunity to go to Baylor, and Mack Roach felt this way when he interviewed Aranda, was the perfect time for him to get away and be who he is himself.
Yeah, sometimes we need to do something like that. I hear him. I don't know him fully well like that, but yeah, you do start to become just whatever your job says you are. And, for some people, that's fine. They embrace their job and they love their job and work 24/7, and that's all they do. I'm not built like that, though, and there is more to it. And I think there's probably more to him, but because he loves football so much, he's so into that he doesn't even realize that he's in that deep, and then has to finally, get shaken free and, hey, you do realize you're way down this hole here, and might be good to get out every once in a while and see some sunshine. So yeah, I'm sure that was life changing in some ways, and I'm sure it's on the personal side and the professional side something that's been very beneficial. Clearly it has. But look at what they did last year, and that was him getting out of his shell and changing who he was a bit. And it's not easy to do. To look in the mirror and have to make changes, especially when you're sitting there with a spotlight like he has on him and having to do it in that scenario, not doing it, necessarily behind the scenes when not a lot of people are watching you. So, yeah, and to be at his age doing it as well, it's not like you're in your 20s or below still where everything's constantly changing and you're constantly changing, trying to figure out who you are. Here's a man who's, early 40s who's still figuring it out. So, yeah, I think that's kind of a lesson to everybody out there that you're never really done changing unless you just choose to be, and you don't have to be stuck in a rut or just stuck on fixated on one thing all the time. Even if it is your passion, you got to kind of take a time out every once in a while. So I think he's taken his time outs. He's learned a lot more about who he is and how he does things, and that's going to be to the benefit of any football program, and that's Baylor that he's leading. That's going to be beneficial for the Bears and has been beneficial for them.
Dennis Johnson, the defensive line coach who was with him at LSU, right after the game talking about the national championship, everybody's excited. I walk in and he's sitting in his locker, and he was like, that's it? We just won a national championship. To him, it had to be more. There's more to be gained. I believe it's what led him to Baylor.
I heard that from another coach when we had the mixer. They kind of said that about being there's got to be more to it than just what that was, which is kind of interesting. And I'll tell you this about Dave Aranda. Of course, none of us really knew anything because he didn't say anything to anybody for so long. I knew him as an amazingly gifted defensive coordinator and defensive mind from Wisconsin and LSU. But I didn't know anything about him, and his personality was nothing. All I knew was, like, here's a young, bald guy who scowls a little bit when they show him on the sideline. But it's not even just kind of a scowl. It's just he's got that look about him, and he's very focused. Yeah, I would not have pegged him for who he is because we didn't know anything about him. He's completely been different than I thought.
We couldn't know anything about him, other than when he was introduced early on after Matt Rule took the job in Carolina, then the coaching search. And then you had COVID shut everything down where he couldn't even – there's players that didn't get to know him, much less us in the media that had a chance to get to know him.
Well, I think people need to realize, too, that not everybody's built the same. Like, there's an event tonight that, it's like a meet and greet. Some people are like, hey, cool, man, can't wait to go get a drink, can't wait to meet some people. And then there's people like me who are like, I don't want to freaking go to this thing for the life of me because I don't know. I'm not like that. And I think Dave Aranda's probably more like me. And it's not that you don't like people. It's not that you don't want to be social. It's not that you want to go hide out in your cave or anything. It's just like you don't necessarily need that other energy to be just fine with what you're doing. Does that make sense? Like, you don't have to.
There's things that a lot of people may not want to be at, but there's also part of what you do for a living that almost puts you in those positions, and you got to just kind of take it and go with it, whether you want to be there or not.
Right. So that's Dave Aranda. Yeah. Dave Aranda doesn't want to be doing media sessions. Dave Aranda doesn't want to be doing handshakes all the time and no functions and things like that. I think that deep down he just wants to coach football, but he realized when he became a head coach that, there's another part of it that you do have to glad hand. You do have to go to fundraisers. You do have to do all these different things that don't come with being just a straight-up assistant coach or a coordinator. And so to what we've been talking about here, that's part of how he's had to change, and that's uncomfortable, and it's not fun. And people that don't deal with it don't understand it. They're like, why? It's so stupid. Just go out there and talk. It's like
you're getting paid $5 or $6, $8 million a year.
Yeah, that's not the point of it, though. It's not the point. It's just like it doesn't. You just don't like the feeling of it, and so
his press conferences have actually become somewhat entertaining because we now understand him better.
Right, because he's gotten more comfortable with it, is my point, is that, it's not something he enjoyed doing. Like I said, it's something that he had to kind of do, and he has because he's kind of had to. And, he's come out of his shell a little bit, and he's gotten more comfortable, and his press conferences have gotten more entertaining. But it's a process. It's not just you flip a personality switch. Some people can do that. But I don't think Dave Aranda is a fake person that can just flip that switch, and that's why I think he's successful is because once you see him flip it, it's genuine. It's not just fake for the sake of, I got to do this for a couple hours, put on my happy face. He is who he is, and you're getting the authentic, real deal, and that's why he's successful.
RH5 asking us, did part of what Mac Rhodes said, at some point Aranda will move on and concern you, is Aranda going to be a Grant Taft at Baylor or more like Brian Kelly? He's not going to be Brian Kelly. What Mac Rhodes said, at some point, it could be 7, 8, 10, 12 years from now, and that not happen at all, is that at some point there might be something else that he would rather, what he would want to do, but that doesn't appear to be even on his radar. When you had LSU, Florida, Oklahoma, USC, Notre Dame, all the other jobs that were open that his name, Washington, all these other jobs that were opened, and he never sniffed, and so he is at Baylor. You could sit there. Baylor fans have been through that before. They went through that even when Art Briles was flirting with a couple of different schools, Texas Tech and UT. And you could devour yourself if you're a fan of that school base or that fan of that program, and even the Matt Rule part. So Baylor fans are kind of used to that. But this is a unique individual. That was the word. Dave Wilson will join us on the article and his conversations. I think he said he interviewed some 25 or 26 different people to get a feel about Dave Aranda. 25 or 26. And then wrote the article that came out yesterday. Hooters, 51 college offensive linemen nationwide are a part of their NIL deal. Speaking with the following programs: Auburn, LSU, Oklahoma, Miami, Georgia Tech, Missouri, A&M, Vanderbilt, Florida, Atlantic, and USF.
Well, you got to be USF. I mean, that's the school that's in your hometown, basically. So I'm not surprised about that. I wonder what they're going to do for them, other than, like, say, come eat chicken wings. I'm just going to say that their hook before has not been offensive linemen.
I know where the money went on their food prep and all that, because their food was not as good the last time that I went. It hasn't been as good the last couple of times that I went.
No, I used to go when we went to the Super Bowl to cover the Super Bowls. The first day we would get there, we would fly in, we would get to the hotel, check in, and we'd go to Hooters. It was kind of a tradition to just relax. And then, Saturday afternoon, we'd go a couple of days earlier than 4 or 5 days earlier now, and it was great. And then it just seemed like it started to digress a little bit. It was just me, the way it tasted, the way it kind of looked. But some love Hooters, and it's a great restaurant, and you go with it as you want. Bruce Scala saying that we want to change the narrative and celebrate student athletes, elite student athletes, who play a pivotal role in making college football so thrilling, and give them their fair share light of the spotlight.
Well, good for him.
Offensive linemen, by the way. Offensive linemen.
Good. At least they're
cool.
They're showing the people who deserve it. Don't see enough. There's not enough offensive linemen with shoe deals. Here's the thing. Those are big feet. You need comfy shoes. I'd rather hear from a guy who has got gigantic feet than somebody who just runs fast, in my opinion.
To me, you win with those guys in the offense and defensive line. Baylor's got 2 highly rated offensive and defensive lines as a position group. We'll see from there. Also want to say hi to Mary Bass. She has no idea that I'm going to say this. I was at HEB on Friday evening after the show. She walked up to me. She was in line and said, "Love the show." And Mary Bass, thank you. This is the second time she's done that. Great to see Mary at HEB. And always, she goes, "You guys are always trying to tell all sides to a story, and we appreciate that." Mary Bass, we appreciate you giving us your time whenever you do on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Okay. We will discuss Nebraska. We will discuss Northwestern. We'll discuss Liberty. We'll look ahead to, of course, Dave Wilson and his article at 4. We'll get into the Cowboys. Travis Roeder will drop by today at around 5 o'clock and discuss quite a bit when it comes to Baylor and what they do. He wrote some more articles over the weekend. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texans are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include food, screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High Performance Men, remember, it's not just a petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Garrett. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Thank you for being a part of what we do every single day on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Garrett, I'm about to send you a tweet that I want to put up. Before we do that, before we bring it up, I want you to do that. I'm just going to send it to you raw the way it is right now. And we'll get into that in just a second. It's nice to, Craig, you for the longest time, Paul, we've been waiting. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was like, I'd still like a little bit longer summer. But now, even though a minimal, not even big games this weekend, it's time. It's time to go. I can't wait. I can't wait for evidence, scores, stats, players, teams, fans, etc.
So do you think that if Nebraska wins in Dublin, that they should now open up every season in Dublin to keep that streak going?
No, I don't care where they win if they could just win.
We had Glenn asked on the text on the Riverman text line if you were going to Dublin.
No, I'm not going to Dublin, but we're going to talk to a couple of guys that are going to be covering that, who cover Northwestern and also Nebraska at 3:45 and 4:45 today. Yeah, Glenn, when is Smokey leaving for Ireland? I would love to have that much money to just go fly to Ireland for a football game. So much. From today, the 3:04, after so much talking about conference expansion, if the Big 12 doesn't add teams from the Pac, is it going to feel like a loss?
A loss? I don't know. Like, if the Pac-12 and Big 12 stay the same and we don't have, more radical shifts, I don't know if that'd feel like a loss. To me, that'd feel like almost kind of a win, although it's inevitable that something is going to change again. So...
Yeah, I mean, what's happening around them outside of that? I mean, are they just sitting there standing pat while the Big Ten's adding 4 more teams and the SEC's adding teams and the ACC's locking? I mean, like, how I need to kind of know some details and who are they adding? Are they adding Oregon and Washington, or who are they turning down? I should say, to stay pat. Are they turning down Oregon, Washington? That'd be weird. Or are they turning down the schools that have been kind of rumored? Well, that would make some sense if they feel like there's going to be something further down the line where they want to kind of have their full capabilities ready to go. Because here's the thing is everybody's just wanting stuff to happen. And, I think it'd be cool if Arizona joined the Big 12, but would it be cool to do it now just to do it, just to make a move versus the play that might be 5 years down the line? And that's what we don't know. And that's what we don't know about the chess pieces that are in play right now. So as of right now, them not making a move, I don't really see that as a red flag of any sort because I think there's a lot of stuff trying to be figured out. And for example, the Pac-12 is trying to figure out their TV deal right now. So, why do they not move potentially? Is it because their TV deal is great or is it because it's wide open and it looks like they're just going to disintegrate and there's going to be teams bolting to the Big Ten and the Pac-12 is not even a thing anymore? You know what I mean? So... there's a few different ways to look at that question, and I need to know more to know whether staying pat would be the right move or not. But as of right now, given that there's, in my mind, not really a whole lot they can do on the offensive, I don't view it as any sort of a red flag or alarming in any way. I think that they're just biding their time, and I think they're playing it smart. And I don't think that necessarily means the Big 12 is going to be around 20 years from now, but I think in this little landscape we have in front of us, I do like their position still better than I like the Pac-12's, not by a lot, but by enough that I do favor their future, so to speak. But, I mean, I'm also the one that's been saying this entire time, if I'm in the Big 12, I'm not sleeping with both eyes closed. I'm looking at everybody next to me and not believing for 1 second that TCU wouldn't take a Big 10 offer or that West Virginia wouldn't jump to wherever, because they and Kansas fans seem to be the ones that are most often talking about where they would rather be. So, yeah, I mean, it's
not even rather be, but who wants them.
Yeah,
which is a little bit off.
I mean, I saw a Kansas Big Ten tweet yesterday from like the same party that's been pumping it for forever, and so it's like that's never ending. So, I mean, the Big 12, as much as it can be, to answer your question, I think they're on solid footing. I think they're fine. I don't think they're on death's doornail, but I don't think that they are so secure that they can leave the house unlocked by any means, and that's kind of where I sit with the Big 12.
Sir, blah, blah, blah. The Big 12 needs to sit, but keep the corner schools and maybe 2 or 3 others on speed dial.
Like, I don't think you have to rush to go get Arizona or those like Arizona right now. Like, what's the hurry to go get them right this very moment?
The only thing would be if you were just hell-bent on destroying the Pac-12, which...
And do you even need to do that?
Yeah.
Do you need to be the one to even do that? Because the Big Ten's going to gladly do it for you probably in the next coming weeks or months or whatever, if there's, words to be believed on the West Coast about that being where they're eyeing. I mean, here's Kevin Warren. He's been making moves going right when everybody's looking left. So now everybody's looking at the West Coast, which to me, I'm looking at the opposite direction, but I also know there's not really any wiggle room out there because of the ACC contract. So it would almost have to be West or that surprise attack in the middle of the night. But then again, the Big 12's got their grant of rights. And so that's also not really movable for the next couple of years. So, yeah, I mean, he's got the chessboard laid out, and, we're all guessing where that next attack is going to be, and the West Coast makes the most sense. So I don't think if you're the Big 12, you really need to start firing off missiles. Just kind of let it play out for a little while longer and see if they don't do it for you.
Here's a tweet. Brett McMurphy covers college football for the Action Network. Oregon has initiated preliminary discussions in Chicago with Big Ten to determine if Ducks are compatible in the Big Ten. This is a source telling the Action Network headquarters. Big Ten not done expanding, sources told them as well last week. We've heard that basically with the TV network that was done, I guess, on Thursday. The opening part of a couple of notes with the Brett McMurphy story is outgoing University of Oregon President Michael Schill, Oregon AD Rob Mullins, and Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren were not involved in the discussions in Chicago. Last week, the Big Ten, of course, had their TV deal, and so there is that story. That wouldn't be surprising if there's not some at least conversations going on.
So, like, they're on the first kind of like get to know you date right now. Is that what Oregon?
But would Oregon be the first one? And we've discussed this before. If in fact there were preliminary discussions with the Big Ten, who among the Pac-12 would be the ones that the Big Ten would want to have discussions with? There's nothing wrong with talking to everybody, but would Oregon be the one?
Well, maybe Oregon is being the most aggressive about it.
Okay.
Maybe
who's remaining? Yeah, they would be.
Yeah. Oregon and Washington would be 1 and 2 to me.
And they'd be above Washington.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and I think by most measurements, they'd be above Washington. Yeah, I don't even think it's particularly close that it's Oregon. I mean, maybe close, what's your definition of that? Washington's in the same neighborhood, but I don't think in terms of appeal and all of that there's anybody that's ahead of Oregon out of the Pac-12 right now.
What are the boxes that they have to check off? One, eyeballs, right? We've already discussed that.
Yeah. Eyeballs, television market, they'd have to be, if they follow everything else the Big Ten has been doing, they've got to be, I guess Nebraska's not anymore, but AAU schools or schools with big academic, weight thrown around them, which Oregon fits those categories. And, and they have to be somewhere that the Big Ten isn't already getting into. So, is that the Pacific Northwest? Yeah, that fits.
Is Eugene, Oregon going to give you the Pacific Northwest?
Well, I mean,
I don't think it's limited to Eugene, Oregon. I think that's a Northwest national brand that has a lot more than just Eugene, Oregon. Yeah. I think that that's kind of the whole thing about the two schools out there is the Northwest. There's two schools, and we've talked about that at length about, you've got LA and you've got Southern California and you got that, but, if you're trying to go fully out west and you're having travel partners and all the same things we've heard now for months, that's the logical team that you look towards. Yeah, absolutely. It's not Stanford, I guess you could throw into that mix too if you're looking at California. But, yeah, if you're talking about the Northwest, yes, absolutely it is.
So that's Brett McMurphy's story that he had just momentarily, and part of that story as well. Some of you in the chat room were asking about the Oregon story, and we had that to discuss with you as well today. Here's from Roger the Dodger. Phil Knight can make up the money of Oregon, gets half of the TV money. I don't. We've heard that he was blowing up people's phones. I get that. Why wouldn't he?
Yeah, but what if he doesn't have to? They can negotiate the deal to where he wouldn't really have to. So
you guys, okay? And I'm not saying this because I know the answer. You would rather have Oregon over Washington because if everything was equal, the brand.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Also, let's not now. While Phil Knight is certainly a factor in Oregon right now, we don't know what Phil Knight's heirs will do. So remember that these are 20, 25, 50-year decisions. And so saying that you want the Oregon because of Nike, that's not the only reason you want them. It's nice that Phil Knight's involved, but he's also involved at Stanford and is a big part of their endowment. And also Nike is a worldwide brand, so I don't think he gets, he just wants to spread the name. So I think that's further down the list of why Oregon is more important, but he has certainly helped build Oregon's brand, but Oregon brand is good because their teams have been mostly good over the last decade and a half, not because of just Nike in particular.
And there's some discussion in the chat room about what I was bringing up about Washington and Seattle compared to Oregon and Eugene.
Yeah, but we're putting them in for what reason?
I'm not saying they're going.
Right. I'm just saying, we can compare Washington and Oregon, but why are we pitting them against each other? Because, that's just something we just threw out there. That's not what I'm saying is I don't think the Big Ten's necessarily, and we don't know, but we're the ones that are comparing Oregon and Washington now. You just threw that out there. You're saying Oregon would be bigger than Washington? Yes, they would be. So now everybody's chatting about who's better or whatever. It's based on our conversation, but the Big Ten could take both.
No.
Or anybody could take both. So it's
whoever they want.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be an or situation. They could just take Oregon or they could just whatever. That wasn't the only thing. There's also Florida State's comments, Paul, which I'm sure you...
I want to still get to Oregon first. If the outgoing president, if the AD and Big Ten commissioner aren't involved in those discussions, is that like an agent floating a player out to teams without the player saying, I want to be traded?
Or it's
a coach?
Let's see if it's even necessary for them to be involved.
Or it could be Kevin Warren just doing what he's been doing the entire time, like with Notre Dame, of just throwing out little, crumbs for people to gobble up and kind of through the media saying things that he wants to kind of kick into motion or get the wheels going a little bit on, If you were to have, I don't know, a feeling that Oregon needs to make a move or, something along those lines, then I don't think Kevin Warren's necessarily going to be the guy that, states that emphatically or can even be because of, tampering and whatnot. So an intermediary, a non-affiliated person going to just stoke interest. I don't think that Oklahoma and Texas didn't have some sort of, behind-the-scenes person that we're not aware of. I don't think it was necessarily just all the power players. I know it was very exclusive who was having those conversations. But, yeah, and look, how many of these schools have people that are not operating under the orders of the president of the school, per se, and are doing it based on alumni who have, way more of an odds to kind of go maverick and kind of make it happen themselves, right? So, yeah, it could be a situation like that. I don't know. This could be the Big Ten side of things floating that out. It could be somebody on the Oregon side of things. I don't know in that regard. Somehow or another, there's a report out there that Oregon is kicking the tires in some form or fashion. You pair that up with, the Florida State stuff, and it's just easy to see everybody kind of looking for their lifeboats right now. And certainly with what Kevin Warren said last week, he left no cap. Everybody took his comments, and I tried to explain this at the time. Oh, my God, he said the Big Ten's going to 20 teams. No, he didn't say that. He got asked a question about, specifically, could you see the conference going to 20 or whatever the phrasing was? Could you see the conference going to 20 teams? Yeah, I could see the conference going to 20 teams. I could see perpetual growth. So he didn't say 20 teams. He said, sure, I could see 20. But he also left the door completely wide open to 50 teams if he wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And everybody just ran with 20. Big Ten's going to 20 teams. I saw that like 50 times this weekend. He never said that in those exact words.
No,
he left it completely wide open.
Brian Gumbel could have said he could have kept going like 24.
Yeah, he
30.
He could have. That's what I said at the time. I said he could have said any number for all we know, and he could have been like exact same answer.
Well, and yeah, what if Bryant was really trying to get to like a number? He could have just kept going like 36, and then get him to like,
sure,
I don't know if I can handle that, but but yeah, he could just kept going until he hit the number that he thinks. But that also, because we talked about this a lot on Friday when you weren't here, Smokey, was the question that nobody's asked Kevin Warren, and I can't believe they haven't, is so what's the end? Like, where do you see college football in the end? Like, what is the goal?
Have to answer that?
He doesn't, but nobody's really asked him.
I don't think there is an end goal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I've come.
I think he wants to leave that wide open, don't you?
I don't think that's what he's eyeing right now is any specific number of like 32 like the – I mean, maybe he is. Maybe he wants to get all the way up to 32 like the NFL. Maybe he wants it to be 24. Maybe he wants it to be 50. I don't think anybody other than Kevin Warren really knows. But I don't think that as of right now there's any really set benchmark. And, look, when that Bryant Gumbel interview finally airs in full and everybody scopes it out, they only gave out excerpts. So maybe there's a whole thing on like why he really loves the number 20, and that's going to be that. But they didn't reveal that in that transcript. He got asked a question, sure, that I could see that, and that was it. And so it didn't, I saw headline after headline of Kevin Warren is going to go for 20 teams. Yeah, and probably way more than that if you actually listen to his answer. But, yeah, I want to see the rest of the interview and see if he expands his thoughts any further on that. But based on what we got, it's open for interpretation. And so people are interpreting it different ways.
We're going to talk Nebraska, Northwestern in a minute with two different writers, 3:45 and 4:45. Dave Wilson, ESPN at 4 o'clock. Hayden Maxwell, you sent some super chat. Did not get anything back from that. Would you please resend it again? Go ahead. We got a break. We'll go ahead and ask it.
Yeah, I've got it.
Go ahead and ask it. Let's try to get to that before the break.
Here is his super chats. I'll just read them all. Just go put the Pac-12 out of business already because they are getting in the way now, and it would force Oregon and UW to make a decision faster and either waiting for them the Big Ten to join them. So that said, he should just go ahead and invite Arizona to go ahead and break up the Pac-12 because we know
what was the question for Craig? I think there was a question for him.
Craig, I'm beginning to think Yormark is starting to play to fake being proactive on the expansion front. He's just sitting and watching and not poaching.
I mean, that could be, but I mean, I think I don't know if I'd say it was an active. I just think, again, what would the Big 12 go and do right now that's going to be in the same realm of the other moves that we're seeing right now? Because I don't think it's just simply going and getting Arizona and some other Pac-12 team. I mean, okay, so you got those teams. What does that really do? Did that raise your valuation? I mean, if it did, really by how much? Did it do it even enough to where you even have any other teams to go out and get to make it? Like, I just think that until you sort of see more of where the path is leading you, I think he's being very careful on how he treads, because the last thing you want to do is have maybe better teams become available. I mean, something's going to have to give, you would think, one way or the other here pretty soon with the Pac-12 TV contract. So, he may be just waiting on that to come down the pipeline, because if it's not that good, then everybody who's maybe not giving you their ear is suddenly more open to doing that. And maybe you find yourself with a better grouping of teams than you expected had you just gone and tried to grab what you could when you could grab it. And I also think, too, it's not all in Yormark's control. I think the Pac-12 has, pretty clearly looked to stay together based on what the majority of schools have kind of, referred to. And so they're in the midst of TV negotiations. And, I'm sure they're waiting to hear more on what the feel is of that before they decide, like, let's pack up all of our history and our location and all that and go play in Texas a bunch. Like, can we at least hear a number first? So I think that's part Pac-12 still has some things to figure out, and Yormark is just being patient, not being overly aggressive, adding just to add, and it doesn't make sense 5 years from now.
Just because you're not doing something doesn't mean you're not trying to do something or not going to do something. Larry Pilgrim, $5 chat, watch the Big Ten, has no interest and are letting Oregon and Washington lower the TV deal. There's so many more questions we'll get to as well in the Big Ten. Some of them are Kevin Warren just being smart Why answer anything right now? Just let it all hang
Right.
and just twist in the wind, or not you, but maybe others as well. When we come back, Mitch Sherman covers Nebraska for theathletic.com on the Huskers and Northwestern, opening up the college football season Saturday in Dublin, Ireland. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, where you have a full throttle butcher shop and also bakery. I went by there Saturday after I played a round of golf, went by there and got a couple of things. And I already have what I wanted when it comes to my product as far as protein with my bone-in ribeyes. But was able to kind of look around and get some kind of specific type slice of bacon, vegetables, among some other items as well. Butcher Shop and Bakery. They have what you need, desserts and sweets and treats and whatever with the bakery, kolaches and more, and fresh bread as well. The Butcher Shop with pork, poultry, seafood, and also beef. You get your steaks cut the way you want, and they'll do it for you when you want it. And Waco Custom Marketplace available Monday through Saturday, and you can go by and pick it up based on the order. They'll then contact you, your order's ready, and then you have what you need. Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know the average American pays over $500 a month for their car payment? What would you do if you didn't have to make that payment for 90 days? Where else could you use $1,500? Keep your car payments at Genco. Buy new or refinance your current vehicle and have no payments for 90 days. Take advantage of our low rates and no payments for 90 days. Only at Genco. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies insured by NCUA.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon-wrapped filet. And, of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
College football starts this weekend. There's a game in Ireland late Saturday morning. Nebraska, Northwestern, and neither team, of course, has been much to talk about, although Nebraska gets a lot of pub because they have been such a dumpster fire, it seems like, for a long time. Mitch Sherman, the Athletic.com, covers the Huskers and joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio. We'll have John Louis from Wildcat Report on Northwestern at 4:45. Mitch, I can't imagine the pressure that Scott Frost must feel. Your thoughts, are they, and why are they better if they are, Nebraska?
I think they're better. It's good to talk to you, Smokey, first of all.
You too.
You know, it's tough to put your finger on it at this point. There's a lot of new faces around Lincoln, soon to be boarding a plane from Omaha to Dublin nonstop. The Huskers will be out tonight and in tomorrow morning across the Atlantic. So a day of acclimation ahead and then 2 days of practice before the Friday walkthrough. Crazy that week 0 is here, and I'm out tomorrow morning. So good thing you got me today. There's a lot of newness at Nebraska. 18 transfers, 15 from Division I schools, notably a couple of former Big 12 players out of the state of Texas, at least played college ball in Texas. In the case of O'Shawn Mathis, played high school football, of course, around Austin, and he's the TCU transfer who's going to be a big factor for Nebraska at the edge rusher spot. And then Casey Thompson, the former Texas QB out of Oklahoma City, is the QB1 heading into this opener. He won the job over Chubba Purdy, the Florida State transfer, and then Nebraska's returning quarterback Logan Smothers, who started the Iowa game a year ago, which was another one of those one-score defeats where Nebraska gave some things away late on special teams. That was kind of the story of the season a year ago. So this offseason, this camp at Nebraska has been marked by what I would say is more calm than what's been typical for this program. There's been no revelation of an NCAA investigation a week before the first game, as occurred a year ago. No talk of canceling games on the schedule. This happened last spring with the OU game in Norman. Pretty typical for a normal football program as far as the vibe and just the way things are trending for the Huskers. And their hope as they go overseas is that translates into more normalcy in the way that they play the game. And if they just play it the right way, the talent is there for this to be a much improved team. And that could translate to 6 or 7 wins and the first bowl game in 5 seasons under Scott Frost.
Okay, Mitch, you mentioned the special teams. So I guess the big questions would be, do they have somebody who can catch punts? Does that guy know when he should try and catch a punt? Do they also have people who can stand in front of the punter and not let the punt get blocked? Because those were huge things for them last year.
And they need a punter who can punt the ball in the direction that his coverage team is heading. All of those things appear to be they've been addressed. We'll see if they've been fixed on Saturday. You're referencing several of the moments from last season. Iowa blocked a punt that was a game-changing event, and in the second half of that Black Friday game in Lincoln that Nebraska gave away. Michigan State returned a punt for a touchdown that went to the wrong side of the field that forced overtime in a contest that Nebraska dominated after halftime and gave away. And then there was the opener where Cam Taylor-Britt, Nebraska's now second-round pick of the Cincinnati Bengals, fielded a punt and then walked into the end zone and took a safety in the first half to kind of set the tone for the special teams all year. Those things are probably not going to happen. I think I can say with confidence in 2022. The Huskers have brought on Bill Bush, who's now in his third stint as an assistant coach at Nebraska. He was a defensive analyst on Frost's staff a year ago, and before that was at LSU. He's been all over and is a veteran coach and is very in tune with the details of special teams. They've given it much more attention this offseason. Finally, this is something that I thought Nebraska should have done 2 years ago, really after the 2019 season, when special teams were trending awry. And it took Frost 2 more years of poor special teams play and really units that ranked in the 120s in the FBS. It's just completely unacceptable for a Big Ten school with the kind of talent on its roster that Nebraska has. And I don't mean overwhelming talent. I just mean the kind of talent where you should never rank in the bottom 10 of the entire FBS in any category that requires you to have good athletes and people who can run. So, yeah, I think they can do all of that stuff this year. There's been much more attention paid to it in camp. It's the first thing they do every day with meetings and in practice. So we will see, but that's my expectation.
Mitch, what are you expecting the Mark Whipple offense to look like? How will it differ from what Nebraska fans have been used to? And why does Casey Thompson make sense as a guy who can make this machine move?
Well, he's got a lot of experience, at least a lot in comparison to the other options for Nebraska at quarterback. He started 10 games at Texas last year, and you guys remember that game against Oklahoma, the 61-55, I think was the score. And Thompson hurt his thumb in the second half of that game, and then played with that injury all season for the rest of the year. That was, I believe, his third start for the Longhorns. So he had a procedure done. He had ligaments torn in that thumb and had a procedure done after spring ball in Lincoln, and it's been a different experience for him throwing the ball since that surgery took place. And Nebraska says he was good in the spring, and he's been a different kind of quarterback in the 21 practices that they had in Lincoln before leaving tonight for Ireland. So it's been I would say a healthy competition, because Purdy is not a walkover, and neither is Smothers. If Nebraska needs either one of those guys because of an injury that happens to Thompson, they're not going to be in a bad place at quarterback. But obviously he's the guy that they want. Those two have one start apiece under their belts, and Casey is almost 24 years old. So he's made the fewest mistakes. He committed the fewest turnovers in practice. He had the fewest busts on plays as they charted them. The Whipple offense for him seems to be a good fit. You look at what Whipple did at Pitt last year with Kenny Pickett and turning around that offense. Of course, they had Jordan Addison, who's not on the Nebraska roster, but there are some solid receivers. They added Trey Palmer, who's a transfer from LSU, and that was with the Mickey Joseph connection. Joseph is the new wide receivers coach. He's a former Nebraska quarterback who was an assistant at LSU under Ed Orgeron and coached with Bill Bush on that staff. And they added Marcus Washington from Texas and several others through the transfer portal. You look at the skill positions for Nebraska, and really it's just filled up with guys who came in through the portal, whether it's corner or quarterback or wide receiver, running back, received assistance from the portal. Whipple's offense is it's a pass-heavy offense. He was criticized this offseason by Pat Narduzzi, the Pitt coach, for not wanting to run the ball. And that wasn't really the case at Pitt last year. It was just that they were a more successful passing team. And this Nebraska team and this offense might be one that's more suited to run the ball than what he had as far as personnel at Pitt last year. A lot of that's going to depend on the offensive line and if they've made significant improvements, which is the biggest question, I would say. Certainly on that side of the ball, it's the biggest question for the Huskers, but it might be the biggest question overall on this team, even above special teams, is what can the offensive line do? It wasn't great last year, and they lost a couple of key pieces this offseason. So all eyes will be on those guys up front when they take the field Saturday.
I know this might be a morbid question. It isn't meant to be, but if they don't win in Dublin against the team they beat by 7 touchdowns last year, when they get off the plane from coming overseas, if they don't win Saturday, is Scott Frost still the head coach?
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to get run at. I mean, it's a good question. We've seen it happen before. It happened at USC where a coach got fired on the runway. It probably will happen again someday in the world that we live in college football. I don't see any coaches getting fired in August, and Nebraska's coming back on August 28th from Dublin. But there's a bye week looming. Look, Frost has a buyout that goes down by 50% on October 1st. So Trev Alberts, the Nebraska AD, is not cutting the cord before that. That's just that doesn't make any kind of sense. But yeah, I mean, if they lose Saturday, then the countdown is on and the watch is on for when it might happen. It won't really be a matter of if at that point. I would say now, things could change. Things could happen on the schedule that would reverse the damage done if Nebraska loses the opener. It's not a team that expects to win 10 or 11 games, so you can absorb one loss, but that's not a likely scenario. Nebraska's not the kind of team that I could see losing against Northwestern, as you mentioned, a 56-7 decision a year ago in Lincoln, and then come back on September 17th and beat Oklahoma. It just doesn't seem in the cards for this program. So if you're 2-2, which is probably what's going to happen if a loss occurs Saturday, because North Dakota and Georgia Southern are the opponents in between, then you go into a bye week, and then October 1st is there when Indiana comes to Lincoln in week 5. So that's the day that you want to circle on your calendars if you're looking for something to happen with this Nebraska job being open.
Do you feel palpable tension at any time when you're around, or is it? I mean, does everybody kind of know the score?
Yes, and yes. It is tense. It's tense among the fans. It's tense at times with some of the assistant coaches, who have been given this really short window in which to operate. Guys on the offensive side who are new, all of them except one assistant coach are in their first seasons, and they're tasked to win and win now. They're all pros, and they all knew what they were signing up for. So it's but yeah, that leads to some tension for sure. And yeah, there's also an understanding of that this is a business, and that it's got to happen, and it's got to happen now. So there won't be another 3-9 season that includes a reprieve at the end. I can tell you that it's got to be considerably better than that, probably double that win total in order for this coaching staff to last another year into 2023.
Mitch, do you think any Nebraska fan or administrator had any thoughts in their mind when they joined the Big Ten that they'd one day be bunkmates with Southern Cal and UCLA?
No, I don't think that was on their minds in 2010. That was a different time, a different era.
Oh yeah,
in Nebraska's history. You can think back to that time and the conversations that occurred between Tom Osborne, who was the AD then, and Jim Delaney, the commissioner of the Big Ten, right after Nebraska played in Dallas and lost to Texas 12-10 in that infamous Big 12 championship game. And then the Huskers came back a year later and blew a 17-point lead against Oklahoma in another Big 12 championship game in their last season, their last game their last Big 12 game as a member of the league. So no, at that point it was get to the Big Ten and start to establish your identity alongside Iowa and Wisconsin, and carve something out that you can do for a long time and fit with those universities. And while some of that has occurred, it hasn't occurred in the way that Nebraska clearly hoped for it to on the football field or on the basketball court, I suppose you could say, for that matter too. Really in the athletic arenas, there have been some good things about Nebraska joining the Big Ten, Financially, it's been fantastic for the school and the state, but success has been hard to find, and in nowhere in those visions do I think that they were expecting USC and UCLA to come on board, and really, while it's good again for the bottom line, it's just a move that makes it more difficult to win for Nebraska in this league.
So, Mitch, thank you very much. Safe travels, young man. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Have a good week 0 and week 1.
You have one job. Bring home. Thank you to Mitch Sherman, theathletic.com. We'll have a writer who covers Northwestern at 4:45.
I only wish that they were going to a place that if Nebraska played poorly, the fans would have some sort of outlet to drown their sorrows.
Someone asked me what I'll do if they start playing poorly. I'll just sit there numb like I've done for the last 3 to 5 years. Coming up next, Dave Wilson wrote the feature on Baylor head coach Dave Aranda, a deep dive that allowed Aranda to come to Baylor to be himself. Next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, used to be, and you need to be. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, from sex drive issues, ED issues, to sleep problems and body fat that seems like it's been added to you. And no matter what you may eat and or how much you exercise, and there's also just the feeling of the energy being lethargic and your sleep habits are screwed up. Any of that, some of that, all of that could be tied into the fact your testosterone levels have dropped. So what do? Contact Dr. Petty and his staff, Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Tell them I sent you, top left-hand corner, email and phone number, and they will set you up to get your blood work. They will set you up, take care of the appointment so you can get your blood work, and Dr. Petty will look at the results, check your testosterone level, and if it's too low, put you in a program to increase your testosterone level so you can become the high-performance man you once were and you need to be, want to be. Petty Clinic, lowt.com.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco, because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. During the Labor Day sales event, you can take your pick, a new 2022 Dodge Charger or Dodge Challenger, and receive 0% for 72 months and no payments for 90 days. If you're a first responder, you get an extra $500 off your purchase. High-quality vehicles from a dealership with a hometown feel. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Corral on 2nd and 15 as they're chopping down on his legs, and then they take him down high as well. Ika finished it.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. We take you up until 6 o'clock today. We do have a programming note that we'll also be announcing sometime today around 5:30. Why Baylor's Dave Aranda is unlike any college football coach you know. Dave Wilson, who I have known for 3 decades, was the one who wrote the article and joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and again, I'm David Smoak. Dave, thanks for your time. I told you this yesterday. What I like what you did is you took some things that had been mentioned before, but you didn't do the copy and paste. How much fun did you have, and how many people did you talk to do this article?
I would say the fun part is it was a little bit agonizing because Coach Aranda is such an interesting guy that you wanted to do it right. And so I think I ended up ultimately talking to about 15 people over the course of a few months. Some of those at Media Day, some of those at the Texas High School Coaches Convention, some of those, just on the phone. So it's definitely something that took an undertaking to try. So much has been written about some of the quirkier or more offbeat things. But, for our audience that doesn't follow Baylor every day, I thought it was worth it to give the bigger picture. And, a lot of times you get a place like this, you get one shot to do a good story. And so I wanted to make sure that we hit all the angles.
So did you go watch the very good, but not as highly known Nicolas Cage film Pig after this? Because he has tons of different references where it comes to that or children's books.
Yeah, I've still not seen Pig. Don't tell Coach, but I did read The Velveteen Rabbit while I was reporting it, and was sort of struck by, oh man, I don't think I've read this book in 40 years, and I got it. So I understood that, and he had a few others. He went on and on about the movie Coda. He had a few others. I mean, I could have done a whole article just on deciphering his metaphors, but I don't know that any of us, every man could quite understand them as well as he can.
Dave, so how do you feel like he's been able to grow more comfortable over the last couple of years?
I think you just see it. I'll give you an example. This story is an example. I've asked for 2 years to do this story. Dave's told me in the past, I tell my team it's about them and not about me. So why would I want to do an article on me? And it's just, something that he didn't like the attention. I didn't put it in the story, but I tweeted it. One of my favorite things was after the Big 12 title game when one of the local guys asked him, your players were chanting, you'd like attention or something like that. And then they said, is that true? And before we could even finish the question, he said, no, just very quietly. But I do think he does not enjoy the attention. And I just think you see him much more comfortable in that role, getting up at a touchdown club and getting an award, or glad handing people at conventions. And, he's a guy that a lot of people look up to in the business. So he's having to,
he's always been a guy that reached out to other people for help, and now he's the guy that people are reaching out to for input.
You know, the first year, COVID year, it was a struggle. They were terrible, 2-7. He made some decisions pretty quickly. Do you find it interesting, Dave, that as much as he is such what seems to be a legitimately unique and very good person, that he's still not afraid to pull the trigger, make decisions on his coaching staff or a starting quarterback?
I find that completely interesting. I asked him that. I said, you know, a lot of coaches, especially in their very first head coaching job, would be wary of making changes so quickly because it would look like that they made a mistake in the process. You know, did you have any issue with that? And he said, no, I had a vision for how I wanted this program to do it. And if the coaches, he told me he hired people for what they did rather than who they were. And that was his mistake. Now, it wasn't, I don't think he was taking personal shots. He was just saying, look, I hired people based on schemes or things. And instead of like walking the walk every day, that the way I want to do it, the way I want to treat players, the way I want to, you know, talk to players, the way I want to run practice. And so if he definitely has a strong opinion on how his program should run, if the coaches don't like it, you know, Dennis Johnson, the defensive line coach, who was really good in the story and very helpful. And he said, you know, if you're a knower, you can't work for Coach Aranda. Like if you're a guy that thinks you have it figured out, you can't work for him. You have to be a learner. And I thought that was really interesting.
Dave Wilson, ESPN.com, wrote the article, and Dave Aranda with us, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Dave, what do you think about, you know, the offseason that we had in coaching where there were, you know, these big jobs open and Dave Aranda would have had easy kind of steps, especially to LSU and USC, into them. And obviously they went super big with guys who had more experience as head coach, but that he didn't budge and stayed here. What does that say about his personality from what you were able to glean?
Yeah, I don't have any knowledge of whether or not he was actually in the mix for those things. I do know that he did not pursue them. You know, and a lot of times the way that works, obviously, is people behind the scenes and doing this. And I think it was just something that he said from the beginning, like, look, this is where, I don't think it's he says Baylor and all the things that make Baylor. Now, I would still worry, you know, that there's people are going to keep coming after him, and there's other places out there that are like a Baylor where the pressure's not as high, but there's resources and there's talent. But, you know, I don't think there's any question that this place at this time is the perfect fit for him. He recruits the type of players he recruits. He has a huge pool of prospects to pick from. He likes athletes and he likes speed, and he's centrally located in Texas, and at the same time, he's a very religious person. He believes in the mission of Baylor. I'll give you an example. He gave me one of his famous metaphors, right? I asked him, why Baylor? Why does Baylor mean so much to you? Why does it appeal to you? And he said, Baylor reminds me a lot of those old Polaroid cameras. He said, you take the picture, the film comes out, you look at it, you don't see the picture, but it needs sunlight to interact with the chemicals in the negative to come to fruition. And to me, that's what Baylor is.
How about
and
that?
It's so deep that I couldn't really figure out a way to squeeze it in there without having, you know, the 15th different metaphor in the story. But it is fascinating, right? That's literally the way his brain works on everything, and it's super interesting.
Dave, how did you take him sitting by himself after the national championship? And you know, you as you say it always means more. But how did you kind of take that part of the Aranda story of him not even being out there and celebrating like everybody normally would, but kind of even doing that in his own way?
So I'll tell you, that's what first drew me to him. I was at that game. I covered that game for ESPN. I was an editor at the time, so I was up in the box. I came downstairs to go to the press conferences to help out some of our reporters. And I went and posted up outside the locker room just to see the scene. And I'm standing there, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but it's the game where Odell Beckham was running around passing money out on the floor of the stadium and running in and out of the locker room. The players were smoking cigars in the locker room, and so the cops were running in and out, screaming at everybody that they were going to arrest them if they didn't put out their cigars. It was chaos, total chaos. And Ed Orgeron's hollering, screaming. Joe Burrow's walking out with a cigar in his mouth with so much, you know, his swagger. doors open, and it was almost like a wrestling entrance. The doors open, smoke comes pouring out. Here comes Dave Aranda, 3-piece black suit with a briefcase with his head down, and just walks through everybody and is gone. He just leaves. And I remember in my head at that one moment thinking, this is like that Sesame Street song that one of these things is doing its own thing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that guy is interesting, and I want to know what his deal is. Mm-hmm. And so that's really the moment for me when I was like, that guy is so interesting. I just, and then he got the Baylor job not long after that. And from the get-go, I was like, I want to come talk to you. And so I'm so thrilled to have actually gotten to do it and to be able to write the story.
How about Trey Novosad and his son, of course, Austin, committed to Baylor and then went on a tour to make sure, and Aranda was like, okay, but this is where you need to be. And it wasn't some coach just trying to be arrogant. It was he knows Austin. He knows what Baylor's like. But the quote from Novosad's father, if Coach Aranda is not there, we'd never go to Baylor. I mean, that's how important Aranda was. Everybody tells you don't pick the college because of the coach, because they always move around. But he told us, I've been to LSU. I've been to crazy places. I don't fit there. I didn't fit there. I fit here. They let me do weird stuff. I can be me, and I'm not going anywhere. I like it here. And he almost like basically told Austin, that's why you'll like it too.
So, yeah, that's what I thought was interesting is Austin grew up a diehard, an Aggie. I don't know. And to have the opportunity to possibly play there, I think Coach just said, like, look, Trey said that Austin is very similar temperamental-wise with Coach Aranda, just very low-key. Matter of fact, he told me a great story that when Trey called Coach to commit, that Trey is very much like Dave. And he's like, hey, Coach, I'd like to commit. And Coach was like, okay, that's great. I appreciate it. And Sean Bill was like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? This is awesome. Somebody get excited here. And so I think that's hilarious, and you can totally see it. But he's like, look, you and I have the same personality. I know you. You're going to go watch the way they coach at the other places and then come back and watch the way we coach and see where you're more comfortable. And I think I know where that is.
So what you're telling us – go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So what you're telling us is that Dave Aranda and Jimbo Fisher have wildly different personalities.
I think they might. I mean, that would just be, from afar. But no, I think – and so I know that I think Trey probably got a little heat for the we would never go to Baylor part of that. And I don't think he meant it that way. I think he just meant given the late press, having a chance to go to Ohio State, having a chance a place that's turned out all these great quarterbacks, where you grew up, like those are pretty enticing. And it came down to their faith in Coach Aranda, really.
How much did Dr. Jerry Lynch, who you mentioned, Aranda reached out to him, and is a guy that probably has a lot on his plate. In fact, he's doing stuff all the time with teams or whoever else. How much influence did Dr. Jerry Lynch have on Dave Aranda, and maybe even vice versa?
I think if you listen to Dr. Lynch speak, or you look up some of his stuff, or you read some of his books, and I have not read his books, but I've read a lot of his info, and then I did a Zoom for quite a long time, and you hear it. You hear it. So it's always about person over player. And he didn't say that explicitly as Dave always does, but he talks about human beings versus human doings. Like I've heard Coach Aranda talk about that. Dr. Lynch would say, Steph Curry is not who he is because of what he's doing. It's because of who he is as a being, as a person. And so I see that, I hear the echoes of that in Coach Aranda. So I think they've had a very strong kinship. If you go look at Dr. Lynch's books, the people who write the forward to these books are big names. And he asked Dave to write the forward for this one. So that's how much he thinks of him, and that's how much Dave thinks of him. I mean, Dr. Lynch has worked with Dean Smith. He worked with Phil Jackson. Steve Kerr is one of his proteges. He's like, people play for a guy like Steve Kerr, and they play for a guy like Dave Aranda not because they yell and scream at them, but because of what type of person they are. They respond. They want to win because the other person is such a good person that they want to win for them.
Thanks for your time, Dave. You did an incredible job. Now we're going to bore everybody to death and talk JUCO basketball. We're not going to do that. That's how you and I first met, covering East Texas junior college basketball. Remember those days at Masters Gym and Wagstaff Gym and elsewhere. You have been working at ESPN for a while. Is this one of your favorite stories to do? You said it was at times tough because there's so much to get in, but is this one of your favorites now that it's out?
It's tough because it was something like, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, I have two kids that are sort of neuroatypical. I have one son on the autism spectrum, one son with Tourette's and OCD, and it was important to me to write a story about somebody who does things in a different way. Now, I'm not diagnosing Coach Aranda with anything. That's not what I mean. What I mean is he's a different guy, different, not a yeller, screamer, different thing. It's important to me to show the spectrum of, in this world of college sports, that there are people that do things in different ways and can win in different ways, right? You've seen that at Baylor. I did not go to the point in the story to say our Browse did it this way and Dave Aranda did it this way, because I don't even want to bring that up, although I just did. But to say that you can win and be different. And I think that is, he worked on that original Leach staff with Sonny Dykes and Dana Holgerson and Browse and all those guys. And, Sonny Dykes told me for the story, I didn't use it, but he's like, I think that was important for all of us to show that you can be yourself and be a college football coach. We didn't all have to try to be Lou Holtz. So that's why it was hard, because you just want to do it right. Is if the guy gives you the time and you wanted to do it for so long, you wanted to do it right and fully report it. And so much has been written about him, especially about his analytical mind and how he coaches. And I just kind of wanted to take a different tack and say, look, that's all been done. People have read that. We know he's a great coach. But what makes him want to coach? So that's kind of my point. But yeah, it's definitely my favorite too. But it's one of the ones that I felt was most challenging, just to get it right.
Yeah, he made the decision with Gary Bohannon back at the end of spring. There's the coaching changes that he can, like I've said, he can be a cold-blooded assassin in a way with decision-making, but that's not kind of who he is personally. But he knows when to make a decision. Yeah, I think the Bohannon,
the perfect example. I wrestled with whether or not we could, the story ended up being almost 4,000 words, which is longer than we normally would do for a single subject feature. And I could have gone on and on. The Bohannon one, I can't think of another coach in the country this year that had a hotly contested quarterback race that made the decision that early. So, and we heard Coach at Media Day say, I have pictures of my kids with Gary in my house. Why wouldn't I want the best for him? And the Nova said, well, that factored in our opinion too. We saw that. We saw how he treated his quarterbacks, and that means something to us.
Hey, Dave, great job, man. Thanks for your time. We appreciate you being a part of it today.
Thanks, guys.
Dave Wilson. In fact, a couple of comments, biscuits and gravy. I just put the link to the article in the chat room. Paula, incredible interview. Love the story, insights into Aranda's intelligence, and so much more. We appreciate Dave Wilson, ESPN.com, for the story and also joining us to give us some background on writing it. Coming up, John Manson. He covers Liberty. Charlie Brewer today named their quarterback. His thoughts about what that competition was like. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, behind the bank, a fantastic place. Look, you can go on DoorDash and get Riverbend Liquor and Wine, or you can go into the location and walk around and see everything. Or if you are in a rush, you can go in and use their drive-thru, which is really, really, really speedy. And they have such great customer service. They know where everything is. They know exactly if they have something. If they don't, they're not going to spend a whole lot of time. I don't think they know. Do you have this, or this? And they said, yep, we got it. Boom. Give them your card, give them the bag, boom, done. That's how fast they are. Plus, the best selection of locally sourced whiskeys anywhere in Central Texas. I'm talking about Balcones, Garrison Brothers, TX, Devil's River. They've got them there. The best selection of craft beers around. And it's almost fall, so they'll be turning the roster from the summer beers into the fall stuff here shortly, and then fall into winter, winter to spring, spring into summer, and so on. That's what they do at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Great promotions, great cool stuff they do with all kind of manner of wine, spirit, seltzer, beer, whatever it is, they've got it there. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street. Find out more on Instagram.
Holy cow, has it been a hot summer. You could fry an egg in the bed of a pickup truck. Jay here from Pickup Outfitters here to give you a little heat relief and some protection for your poor truck bed. August is bed cover month at Pickup Outfitters, and we're making it easy for you to cover up that hot bed on your truck with discounts of up to $200 plus matching rebates of up to $200 and double your warranty on many of those covers. That's up to $400 in discounts and rebates plus double your warranty on bed covers at Pickup Outfitters. And you get our famous lifetime installation guarantee and free warranty assistance, which makes for a worry-free purchase. When's the last time you could say that about your bed, a truck bed? Get your poor bed some heat relief with a brand new bed cover, including name brands like Backflip, Undercover, X-Tang, Retrax, Roll & Lock, and Truxedo. Up to $400 in discounts and rebates with double your warranty. It's only at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience, where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Brad Boozer Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Earlier today, Liberty announced that Charlie Brewer would be their starting quarterback. Hugh Freeze, the head coach. John Manson joins us. A Sea of Red covers Liberty on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports with Craig and Paul. I'm David Smoak. Thanks for your time, John. Was this a really tough battle to name the starter, or was this kind of a given going in?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. First of all, I think when Brewer transferred to Liberty and announced that back in December, it was kind of assumed he was going to be the front runner. But Coach Freeze, Hugh Freeze, he likes to keep his cards close to the vest. I mean, even Malik Willis, who, probably the greatest quarterback ever to play at Liberty, with the Titans now in their training camp. He kept that close to the vest until game week of the first week 2 years ago, and had us all to believe that it was a nip and tuck, battle between him and Chris Ferguson, a former FCS quarterback. So, he likes to not let out much, but yeah, I think most kind of assumed that it would be Brewer's job to lose. I mean, the other three quarterbacks that were kind of competing with him are, relatively unproven. One guy, Jonathan Bennett's been in the program going on 4 years now, but he was Malik Willis' backup the last 2 years. Has never had a start. Only played very limited reps in a game. So yeah, I think most assumed that it was Brewer's job to lose.
How do you think the offense will change from Malik Willis to Charlie Brewer?
Well, you guys probably know more about him than we do here at Liberty, but obviously Malik got drafted because of his athletic ability, his ability to escape the pocket and get out into space and to make plays, in addition to his ability to be able to make some plays with his arm. But Hugh Freeze is, he loves the RPO, the up-tempo offense, which is what Charlie ran there in Baylor. And, I think it'll be more similar to what we've seen out of Freeze in his time at Ole Miss and early at Liberty. I think last year Liberty got away from that a little bit, kind of relied on Malik Willis a little bit too much to the detriment of the team. Willis led the team in rushing each of the last 2 years. I don't think we'll see that from Charlie Brewer this year. And certainly, Liberty doesn't hope that's the case. Hopefully they can have a running back or two lead the way. But I think it'll still be a similar offense other than, Charlie won't be expected to rush for, 900 yards on the season.
How would you describe, John, where Liberty is as a program right now under Hugh Freeze?
Well, I mean, the program has made a lot of strides. I know, Liberty and Baylor played a few years ago under the previous head coach, Turner Gill, right before Liberty made the move to the FBS. And every year under Hugh Freeze, the team has kind of taken a step forward. And they've gotten to a bowl game each of the first 3 years as an FBS member and won each of those 3 games and looking to do it for a 4th straight year this year. And the biggest question mark on this team this year is at quarterback. And if Charlie's the guy, obviously he's had some concussion issues and struggled a little bit at Utah last year. But if he's healthy and got those, negative marks behind him and he's, back to what he was at Baylor or even a fraction of that, because obviously Liberty doesn't play in the Big 12, then this can be another team that wins 7 or 8 games. And that's something that Freeze has been able to do each of his first 3 years at Liberty is win at least 8 games and like I said, get to a bowl game.
You asked, because we watched him, and his first year, of course, they were beat the hell up. They weren't very good. They had nothing really to do, and he was 1-11, took a beating. Then they made it to a bowl game, and he probably helped win a lot of the games that got him to that point. It seems like to me, John, I don't know if you've talked to him or if he's mentioned this, it seems like to me he's better when all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, I think that could be the case. And things obviously did not go well for him at Utah. He's the first person to admit that. And he's a guy that's back into a more comfortable environment. He's really loved and trusts and respects Coach Freeze. That's something he's been open about since the spring, and that's something that he continues with and says that when Freeze first met with him at a hangar there in Texas where he's from, they pulled out a whiteboard and started drawing up plays and showing them what the offense would look like. Something Charlie was accustomed to. So, Liberty had an open scrimmage on Saturday, and it was the first time that really the media and fans have had a chance to see what this team could be like since the spring. And Charlie definitely, was the better quarterback of the 4 that got reps on that scrimmage on Saturday, and he was poised and just command. You could tell he had a good command of the offense, and the rest of his offense kind of followed after him. And it was just after that scrimmage on Saturday, just a matter of time before Coach Freeze kind of made it official.
How solid do fans feel about Coach Freeze staying there for a while?
Well, that's $1 million question. I really think that, if you would ask me, 4 years ago, as he's getting ready to go into his 4th year, I would have said if Freeze was here for 4 years, I would have been shocked, to be honest with you. But the more that time's gone on, the more that he's been here, the more that I could see him, staying for a considerable period of time. Yeah, sure. He has always said that, you know, it would take something very special to lure him away, and so he kind of leaves that door open. But I think he really enjoys it at Liberty. His kids, 3 daughters, have all gone to school at Liberty. One's still in school. 2 of them have been married, and married guys with Lynchburg, Virginia ties. And so I think he's kind of settled in here. I think the family really enjoys, you know, not having the SEC media scrutiny that you know he obviously had at Ole Miss. But I mean, if a position ever came open and offered to him that was something that he thought he could win a national championship, I obviously think he would jump at that. But you know, those jobs are few and far between, especially when you know things are going the way they are at Alabama and Georgia and places like that. So. You know, I envision him being here maybe until he retires, which I know a lot can change each and every year, and you never know what job will open. But you know, he really has found, you know, somewhat of a home here in Lynchburg.
You know, you mentioned Utah, and that didn't go well. It looked like that was a pretty good match. He thought Larry Fedora, his last year at Baylor, might be a pretty good match. That didn't work out. How much accountability has Charlie taken, perhaps, for the last couple of years?
Oh yeah, he's owned up to some of that, and he's talked about that some this training camp, and how you know things didn't go well, and he was partly to blame, and he's owned up to that and taking full responsibility. And I think he's ready for a new chapter. I mean, this is his last chance. You know, 6th year here in college football is his last chance. I mean, he doesn't have any more opportunities. I think he's grateful for Coach Freeze and Liberty giving him that opportunity, and I think he's really taking it on in stride, and perhaps the last year or two has, you know, kind of humbled him a little bit. You know, I mean, obviously a few years ago in 2019 when Baylor, you know, got to the Sugar Bowl and won, 10 or 11 games, he probably felt on the top of the world. And you know, things didn't go that well the last 2 years. And you know, maybe that's humbled him a little bit. He's gotten back to getting back to, you know, paying attention to the little things and not leaving any small, minute detail out of his repertoire, and you know, kind of moving forward and taking things on in stride here at Liberty.
Hey, thanks for your time. We appreciate it, John. Enjoy the year, and thanks for your time. We'll maybe get you on again later on.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yep, John Manson again. A Sea of Red covers Liberty. Charlie Brewer today named their quarterback at Liberty under Hugh Freeze. When we come back, Louis Vicaire, Wildcat Report, covers Northwestern. They open up this weekend in Dublin against Nebraska. His thoughts, Travis Roeder, Sikkim 365 football analyst, today just after 5. Garrett, I just sent that again. We won't need to do it now, but there's an interesting video from McMurray on the Grant Tapp statue of what they're doing as a tradition, and Daniel in the chat room or the text line also brought that up. Before we break, Paul, a couple of super chats. We want to see if we can get to that, if we can now, that Levi sent us. Let's make sure we answer one of those questions.
Christopher Morgan, sorry, all just logged on. I know that this is about Nebraska Northwestern, but any thoughts on Paul Feinbaum's comments on Notre Dame being overrated in top 10? Question, what if Notre Dame beats OSU in week 1? And then he kind of gives you know, just some context to that in the next one. But look, if they beat Ohio State in week 1, they're not overrated, but I don't think many people are going to pick them to do that, and they're 2 touchdown dogs right now in that game. So
they overrated if they lose to, am I hearing that right?
Yeah, if they I mean, he said if they're overrated, Paul Feinbaum said they were overrated. And he said, what if they beat Notre Dame? Then I would say they wouldn't be, but, you know.
Ohio State?
No, Notre Dame would beat Ohio State. Did I read that too fast?
Yeah.
I kind of don't understand it. Yeah.
Sorry, I just logged on. I know that this is about Nebraska Northwestern. That was from an hour ago. But any thoughts on Feinbaum's comments on Notre Dame being overrated in the top 10 questions? What if they beat Ohio State? Well, that answers that question.
Well, yeah, they would not be overrated, obviously, because they beat Ohio State. And, I mean, I don't really care what Feinbaum has to say. I mean, I don't mean that to be some, you know, cocky SOB or anything. He said a lot of things over the years, and some of them are, you know, accurate, and some of them are just, you know, opinions, and that's his opinion, and he'll turn out right or wrong, but we'll see. But yeah, I don't know that Notre Dame's overrated just yet. I'm just anxiously awaiting seeing actual games. That's where I am on this. But yeah, to each their own.
Yeah, but they're 2 touchdown dogs, so I mean that's one of the reasons he's saying.
If they play a game that's straight up down to the fourth quarter,
yeah, but that's the thing though. Is what's he saying though? They're overrated in the top 10.
Yeah.
Because they're 2 touchdown dogs to Ohio State?
Or I think he's just saying they're overrated in general. Yeah.
I think Ohio State's going to be a 2 touchdown favorite against most everybody they play, except maybe 2 or 3 teams, right?
So he thinks they're overrated? Okay. We'll see. I mean, that's what I mean is like, okay, sure.
When we come back, go ahead.
The dude wrote a book called My Conference is Better Than Your Conference that's kind of kicked off this propaganda about conferences, and
no one has benefited more, man.
Yeah, I mean,
hey, good on him. I'm not trying to knock him, but like, yeah, that's his opinion, and we'll see. Like I said, if he's right or wrong, but I don't really have a thought on his opinion about Ohio State being overrated or Notre Dame or anybody for that matter.
His show is not popular because of his measured takes.
No. It's a lot of it is. That's how he kind of made it in the business. We have ours, and we hope that what we said earlier on the comment that somebody told me at HEB, that we try to give you the different angles, different sides of every story if we possibly can. Let you make your mind up, although we will have our decisions. Louis Vaquer, Wildcat Report is next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on right now at Richard Carr, and they're the people you can count on for a great deal and great customer service as well. Great pricing all at once. It's a pleasure to do business with the good folks over at Richard Carr, and I've had to do that now a couple of times over the last few months. I had a couple of issues with my vehicle that they were able to help me out with, and made it so easy, the entire process, going over there, getting it worked on, and getting it back. It's like nothing ever even happened to it, so I can vouch personally for their tremendous customer service. But if you are in the market for new cars or trucks, they are arriving weekly at Richard Carr. You can come by or log on to richardcarr.com to view their in-stock inventory. Or if you're looking to get into something a little bit quicker and you want to cut in line, check out their inbound vehicle list. You get on that inbound vehicle list and you can reserve a brand new Buick GMC or Cadillac before anybody else. So basically, like it says, cutting in line, you tell them what you're looking for, what you want. They put you on the list, and as soon as it arrives, you get it that quickly. So good thing to do if you already kind of know what you want and know that it will take a little while because of chip shortages and things like that to arrive on the lot. However, if you need a car today, Richard Carr has over 95 quality pre-owned cars and trucks. All pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and you can get top dollar in a tray with dozens of lending options. Richard Carr says yes to loans when others say no. So if you want to buy new, that's your option if you to get on that inbound vehicle list. But if you're looking to get into something today, then check out the new and pre-owned vehicles. They have a variety of different options. For 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Holy cow, has it been a hot summer. You could fry an egg in the bed of a pickup truck. Jay here from Pickup Outfitters here to give you a little heat relief and some protection for your poor truck bed. August is bed cover month at Pickup Outfitters, and we're making it easy for you to cover up that hot bed on your truck with discounts of up to $200 plus matching rebates of up to $200 and double your warranty on many of those covers. That's up to $400 in discounts and rebates plus double your warranty on bed covers at Pickup Outfitters. And you get our famous lifetime installation guarantee and free warranty assistance, which makes for a worry-free purchase. When's the last time you could say that about your bed, a truck bed? Get your poor bed some heat relief with a brand new bed cover, including name brands like Backflip, Undercover, X-Tang, Retrax, Roll-N' Lock, and Truxedo. Up to $400 in discounts and rebates with double your warranty. It's only at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Brad Boozer Jeweler joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
We are now joined by Louis Vicaire. Wildcat Report covers Northwestern of the Big Ten. We mentioned earlier with Mitch Sherman, the Athletic on Nebraska. That's the game. Basically a very light schedule this weekend, but that game is late morning from Dublin, Ireland. Louis, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. With Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. So Northwestern had a rocky year last year. There's no question. They got beat up a lot. What makes you think, or do they think they're any better?
Well, yeah, I think they think they're better. I think they're going to be better on offense, defense. I'd throw special teams in there too. The question is, how many more wins will that equate to? And what makes me think they can do it is, they did it 2 years ago, right? So if you look at, they've been riding a roller coaster here. In 2018, they won the Big Ten West. 2019, they went 3-9 and finished last in the Big Ten West. 2020, they win the Big Ten West. Last year, they go 3-9 and finish last. So they've been worst to first to worst, whatever you want to call it, like up and down these last four years. So it's really nothing new for them. I think, like I said, I think this. I don't foresee them, winning the West or anything this year. But I think it's a team that if things break right for them, maybe they can get to a bowl game this year. I think that would be considered a successful season.
What do you think about this game on Saturday with a Nebraska team that really needs to repeat what they did against Northwestern last year to start out the year, and this being so far away in Dublin? Is that an equalizer? How do you see it shaking out?
Yeah, I think it's an intriguing game, that's for sure. The fact that the travel, and it being in Ireland and all those time zones, who knows what effect that's going to have. That's to be determined. It's tough to say. But Northwestern definitely has a score to settle. I think, they got humiliated last year in Lincoln. They got beat 56-7. Nebraska ran for 427 yards, and it felt like 4,027 yards. I mean, they really ripped through them. So I think that's certainly motivating for them. And, you look at Nebraska too, though. They got plenty of question marks too. Scott Frost's job is certainly on the line. They got a new offensive coordinator. They got a new quarterback. They've got all these new assistant coaches and transfers and things like that. So they've got a lot of things they're trying to pull together too. So It's an intriguing game. I mean, it's a matchup between two teams that went 3-9 last year, so it's not exactly a marquee game, but it certainly has some intriguing storylines and question marks going into it.
Louis, how do you see the quarterback position playing out for Northwestern early on?
Yeah, well, that's the big question here is who's going to play quarterback. Pat Fitzgerald had his press conference today. He declined to name the starter. So the two guys are Ryan Holinsky, who started 5 games last year, and, he was kind of up and down. And then there's the redshirt freshman, Brendan Sullivan, hasn't taken a snap at the college level. He's the more athletic guy that can make plays with his feet. Ryan Holinsky's the guy that has a stronger arm, and he's more of the classic drop back kind of guy. If I had to bet on one or the other, I'd take Holinsky just because he's been in the system. He's taken snaps in a college game. He's played quite a bit of football, where Sullivan has yet to take a snap. So, I don't know that for sure. Nobody knows it for sure. My money would probably be on Holinsky, but I wouldn't be surprised if, Sullivan's the guy that they think is their future. We'll have to see, because that's offensive coordinator Mike Bajakian typically favors those dual threat kind of guys, and that's something that Sullivan brings to the table.
I was looking at Holinsky because of the interview, getting ready to ask you questions, and he's okay throwing the football. Again, they weren't very good, neither was Nebraska, but I noticed he doesn't run. He's not a dual threat type of guy. Do they have somebody who's more of someone who could make things happen when all hell breaks loose?
Yeah, there's no question. He is the classic drop back guy. Now he has, practices are closed. They've had one open practice this fall camp, so we don't see anything. But he has lost some weight, and that's something I know he's been working on, is his mobility and his running ability. But Brendan Sullivan, the guy that he's been in a battle with throughout fall camp, he's the more dual threat guy. And then they also have this true freshman that could come in. He's a very athletic guy that, maybe they throw a package or two in for him as well. They've used running back Cam Porter has come in as a wildcat quarterback at times. So they have plenty of options if they want to add that element to the game. But you're absolutely right. Holinsky is more of your drop back guy, and he's not going to make a lot of plays on the run, that's for sure.
So you mentioned, obviously, this is not like any kind of a marquee game, but it is like the start of the college football season. Is that kind of neat to be a part of, even though from afar?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think, how often is Northwestern ever kind of the center of focus of the college football world? It doesn't happen too often. They've got a unique opportunity, and it's in Ireland. Like, I'm going over to cover the game, and my wife and I are going to turn it into a vacation. So we're going to spend some time there and everything. I don't know if you've seen pictures. The stadium looks really cool. That should be kind of a neat experience. So I think the fan base is excited. The players are excited. And I think it's a little bit build Northwestern's brand a little bit. If you want to watch college football, that's the game you're going to be watching this weekend, because it's the only Power 5 game being shown, so people will watch it.
We've discussed here, because we cover Baylor quite a bit and college football in general, but Dave Aranda appears to be a really, really perfect fit for Baylor. He's only 2 years into it, year 3 this year. Pat Fitzgerald seems to be that same type of fit for Northwestern. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Pat Fitzgerald, I tell people he's not only the face of the program, I think he's kind of the face of the university. It's his alma mater. He went to school there. He's one of the greatest players in Northwestern history. He grew up in the Chicago area. And he really believes in what Northwestern does. They have higher academic standards than everybody. Not everybody can get into to school and everything like that. And, Fitz embraces that, and it's something he really kind of looks at his role as developing not only football players, but young men. That's something that he really believes in. And, he's signed through 2030 now. He's said, in public that he's a Wildcat for life. How long he wants to go before he retires, or will he maybe, be lured by the NFL later in his career? That's all a possibility. He's got, I'll tell you though, next year, or class of 2023. So yeah, it'll be next fall. His oldest son will be a walk-on for the Cats. So he's got 3 of those. I imagine that, he'll want to coach all three of them. So that's another thing that may be keeping him there. But yeah, he's a perfect fit for Northwestern, and I don't think he's going anywhere, and I don't think fans want him to go anywhere.
Ara Parseghian, who eventually was prior to Notre Dame, who made the great run at Notre Dame. Dennis Green ended up having a heck of a career, Stanford in the NFL. Gary Barnett, of course, I thought was one of the greatest rebuilds ever when he arrived at Northwestern, took him to a Rose Bowl. And then Pat Fitzgerald, 16 years. And to put this in perspective, he's the second coach to win a bowl game, and it was 74 years in between, 64 years in between. The first ever bowl game Northwestern won, and the one he's won 5 of 5 in the 10 bowl games, has done a heck of a job. Thank you very much, Louie. We appreciate your time, and good luck on your trip and back and enjoying a little bit of downtime when you're there as well.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Louie Vaquer, Wildcat Report, covers Northwestern. Coming up next, McMurray football has a pretty good tradition involving Grant Tapp. We'll have that in the 5 o'clock hour. But Travis Roeder is next, covers Baylor football as an analyst. He's next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by Let's Be Friends, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. And right now they have their specials for the month of August, including what they have with Ram trucks. And they also have the Wagoneer. The Wagoneer 2 and 3 Series, both of them are spectacular SUVs, and there's dealer discounts and other offers available. Ask the various client managers when you're there. Bottom line is the Wagoneer, which really came onto the scene, it seems like in the last few months, is gorgeous. I've been in both of the Series 2 and 3. I rode around in the Series 2 for quite some time, and it is fantastic. And, of course, you could always rely on what they do with Ram Truck, Motor Trend's Truck of the Year, back-to-back years, and they always have Ram trucks on the lot. They, in fact, I believe, have more cars, trucks, and SUVs on their lot than anywhere else you could imagine, and Alan Samuels, led by the general manager in Ted Teague. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340, and east of 84 in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitschke Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitschke Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitschke Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitschke Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
And interesting fake. It worked. It's a touchdown to Ben Sims. Just love the poise of this young quarterback.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
I spent some time yesterday, the TD podcast, which Travis Roeder does, with Jeff Davis, breaking down Baylor's passing game defense. If you want to get like a deep dive into X's and O's and all that, it's a great podcast when Travis posts that up on Sick'em 365 in the premium section. He joins us now on the show today, 365 Sports with Craig and Paul, and I'm David Smoak. Travis, when you get into this is something you love to do when it comes to the X's and O's. I got to tell you, that podcast with Jeff Davis is fantastic.
Well, first of all, I just want to say I feel like I'm officially like a real radio guest now. I'm doing this on my way home from work in the car. I feel like that's kind of a rite of passage. But yeah, honestly, if any listeners, if y'all want to check it out, I greatly appreciate it. I might start with a different episode. Smokey, I appreciate you plugging that defensive passing game one, but that was probably the most scheme and technical as Jeff and I get, because pass coverage is very complicated. So yeah, we've been cranking out some episodes, really diving into Baylor's football team. And what I appreciate about it is, if there's any listeners that maybe aren't a Baylor fan, Jeff and I really just use Baylor as a lens to talk about football as a whole. So we're really interested in all of the thousands of ways that go into winning, whether it's organizational buy-in, team culture, how head coaches operate, what assistants do, what does a wide receiver coach do, for instance. That's the kind of stuff we really try and dig into, and then we'll talk about it from a Baylor aspect as well. So appreciate you listening, Smokey, and thanks for bringing that up.
You're welcome. He coaches the wide receivers, Travis. Done.
Well, yeah. Okay. All right, Paul, why don't you get out there and do it?
No, but there are some of those things I don't think people know, and then sometimes what things have you found are overrated or underrated that people talk about? Like, you'll hear fans be like, yeah, we definitely need a running back coach because he's a problem. But maybe it's not really that.
I think in general, and I think this helps that, my fandom kind of started under Art Briles, under the teams that Art Briles had. And then I got to transition to really getting to know the game better when Matt Rule was coach, and of course now when Aranda's here. And one thing that I think fans really don't appreciate when it comes to college football and how teams work and how you become good at everything is really thinking about the limitations of practice time and how teams can forge an identity. In college, I heard an NFL coach one time say, he was like, look, I've coached high school,
college and NFL games, and the least amount of time I get with my kids is at the college level. There's so many regulations on how often these guys can practice. And so I think something that fans have to understand is that, like, the team with a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense doesn't really exist. I mean, Alabama has kind of approached there a few times, but even most of the times they've won the national title, it's, one of their units is kind of decidedly better than the other. And the reason for that is, there's a famous anecdote from, or I don't know if it's famous, I had a friend tell me this, that, Cliff Kingsbury would start off every Texas Tech practice with 100 plays run as fast as possible against the defense. Now, that is a terrible way to learn defense because there's no time in between any plays. You can't stop and talk to your position coach about, what I could have done better, et cetera. And so, I think we saw that there's a difference, with Matt Rule, and he really focused on special teams and he focused on kind of red zone. Anyway, every kind of head coach has their different specialization for what they like to do and how they spend their time. And that's why most college teams don't, they can't be great at everything because there really just isn't enough time. I don't know if Craig's in there with y'all right now, but I mean, that's kind of the impression you get too when you're at these practices in the open periods. I mean, they're whirring between stuff at like every few minutes. I mean, they're trying to cram as much stuff in there as possible. So I think thinking about practice time and the limitations there and how you forge an identity as a team is really underrated and should be thought of by all fans because you can't be great at everything.
So, Travis, you've had an opportunity to see some of the practices, the open windows that wrapped up this past weekend. Where do you kind of sit now after having that little bit of scope of Baylor football in terms of your expectations, your thoughts heading into a game week, finally, next week?
Yeah, I mean, everything we've heard, and from what I can tell, too, is that the defense is really kind of winning the day this fall camp. And I don't think that really surprises any of us. Obviously with how much they bring back defensively, even with the big losses, just how, you have to think about too, practice structure. A lot of times the second team offensive line is going against a second team defensive line or a third team defensive line that's just as good as a lot of starters in this league. So there's no respite for any of these guys. And so I think overall this fall, I feel really, really good about Baylor having kind of a top 15, top 10 level defense. What I'll be curious to see, especially by week 2 of BYU, is, okay, the offense is kind of getting their teeth kicked in camp a little bit. I'm sure they've been making their fair share of plays, right? But when you're going up against a defense that's good every day in fall camp, it can be a little bit grating. I'm sure there's lots of kids who are banged up, dealing with injuries on the offensive side of the ball, and kind of tired of how confident and, assured of themselves that the defense is. So that's kind of what I've got my eyes on. I've got high hopes for the offense. I think they can be pretty good this year, but I think it might take them a little bit of time to kick it into gear this season. Or maybe it's a deal where as soon as they get to play somebody else, they get really confident quit because they don't have to face that Baylor defense anymore.
I think that's a great point because back in the day when it was Briles in the offense, sometimes, and again, the Baylor defense struggled a lot of times along the way, and then they started to get better because they got better players. But I think that you're right. You can almost like lose your confidence when you go against something that's so dynamic. And in this case, you hear about that when somebody's facing an offense that's dynamic, but it's different when you're placing a defense. And all of a sudden, you might be a lot better than you think.
Right. I mean, you can think about it. There's so many different examples you can use, but, I got to ask Dave Aranda a question the other day, and I was asking about the young defensive backs. Because one thing we saw, and I think this was really typified in that BYU game last year, is that BYU couldn't do anything on the ground. I mean, nothing. But they really just kind of started resorting to chucking the ball up downfield to Gunnar Romney and Puka Nacua downfield against Baylor's cornerback. And Baylor's corners didn't look too great. So I asked Dave, I said, how are the corners looking? Are they improving in that area of the ball, playing the ball downfield? And he basically said, look, it's kind of difficult to know because our pass rush is so good that our offense actually hasn't had a lot of time to throw downfield. And I don't really think that's necessarily a big slight against the offense because I think we know that Baylor's pass rush is going to be absolutely dynamic this season. So that'll be something I think that we'll see is like, all right, how many times has Shapen actually had to kind of load up and launch the ball downfield this fall? And, especially when he's playing Albany, but even against BYU, all of a sudden he's got a fresh pocket. Hopefully it doesn't scare him or it can feel a little eerie back there. And hopefully he's not seeing ghosts yet, because I think the offense is really going to, I think there will be an adjustment period where they realize, like, okay, we can actually execute everything because we don't have an Apu Ika or a Jackson player in our face like we do in fall camp.
So you and I discussed this a little bit, and Dave Aranda, I asked Friday, the last time we'll get to visit with him until, I guess, a week from today, game week, about Squirrel Williams was not a part of the scrimmage. I know that the injury kind of, I guess, is something that was very fortunate as far as the MRI. You obviously are high on him, Tay McWilliams, et cetera. Is there? It's the thing with Squirrel. There's always something, right?
I know it. Honestly, though, I was kind of frustrated, or not frustrated, but, when we broke that news on 365 that had happened, fans were kind of saying, here we go again. And I don't necessarily blame fans for that reaction, right? But, there was as Dave said in his press conference, there was a 24-hour period there where they did the MRI and they had to wait for the results. He said they were very prayerful. And, I have to imagine Squirrel, I think we all have incidents in our life where a night of sleep can be pretty tough based on what had happened that day before, with anxiety about what's going to happen in the future. I just can't even imagine what that night was like for him. So I'm honestly, at this point, I'm just kind of elated that he didn't have a season-ending injury, and it seems like he'll be back within a week or two. Because, I think he deserves it, like I said, like we talked about last time, who knows what's in the future for him as far as his long-term career. But I think this kid deserves at least one full year. Does that mean he's going to be healthy every game this year? I don't know. But, man, I want to see it. I think every Baylor fan, and honestly, if you're just a football fan, for me as a Big 12 fan, football fan, I don't want to see Deuce Vaughn hurt. I want to see what that dude can do in his last season in college. And so I think any football fan should really want to see what Squirrel can do this year, because school film and what we've seen in his brief snippets at Baylor is about as good as it gets athletically for a running back.
They have a lot of players on the roster that have teased us. Or teased the fan. Squirrel Williams, Josh Fleeks at times, Jalen Ellis, Gavin Holmes. And you'd like to see all of them get an opportunity to actually show what they can do when they are healthy. Travis, every Friday just after 5 o'clock, we appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, Smokey.
Every Monday, after 5 o'clock, I don't know if I said that right, Travis will join us, Sikkim 365 college football analyst. Garrett, let's Jacob Wilson running the mothership with Garrett right there. The Grant Taft video, Daniel Acton brought this up as well. He's a McMurray graduate. But this was a video that they put. Remember the Grant Taft statue that we focused on? This is now a tradition. Prior to the practices and also the game, former Baylor head coach who was at McMurray prior to being at Baylor, McMurray football players, kind of like the Clemson has the Rock and others have their certain ways of what they do. You pop Notre Dame play like a champion or whoever you have. And so there's a video from McMurray football of the great Grant Taft in the statue on their way to practice.
You think Coach Taft still has suits that look that's like?
Yeah, he does. I think he does. It just seemed like the suits back in the day were just, I don't know, man. They're pretty damn good looking.
Well, it depends. Like that era, yeah. Then you get in the 70s and they kind of went rogue a little bit. So like the 60s, I would say the 60s, like the Sinatra suits,
yeah,
those looked really good. And then in the 70s, some weird stuff happened.
A lot of the weird things happened. I lived
late
in the
60s, early 70s.
I lived on that.
Yeah, I don't know what people. But I think every generation you're going to look back and go, why, did you wear clothes like that? Like in the 90s and early 2000s, pants were so baggy, it was ridiculous. And now they're so tight. I don't understand why we can't just have like in the middle. Where they just fit normal.
You just tailor make them the way you want them and how you want to watch them as well.
Why the fashion isn't like there shouldn't be one way or the other. They should be in the middle.
There is let's see. I had this. We've done this. We've done the super chat. Any new super chats? I don't think so. I want to make sure we don't lose out on that because we got scolded for that earlier. We will, by the way, this week, the high school football season in Texas begins Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and then for the next 17 weeks until the championship weekend before Christmas. And our high school podcast will begin starting later this week. I'll be in the studio with Jacob Wilson doing that. We'll have some flavor of coaches and programs from throughout the state, not just Central or East Texas, but throughout the state. We will launch that Thursday here on 365 Sports as well. And then eventually the fantasy football and the college football shows on top of what we do every day in the studio. Emery, Levi, Jack, and also Garrett and Jacob Wilson behind the scenes today with us, helping us out as well. From your Sinatra days, from Gregory, I am not a fan of pleated pants. Also, back in the Sinatra days, a lot of men wore their belts way above their waists.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. That was kind of weird. Like, you ever watch, I remember there's a Jim Carrey movie called The Majestic that I really like. And in it, there's a scene where he's washed up on the beach and he has amnesia. So he goes to the doctor, and the doctor gives him this pair of pants. And he just hikes him way up. And I was like, how are you walking around like that, Jimbo? I don't know.
I have a good friend of mine that when he wears any kind of slacks, his belt is above the belly button. It's just the way he's always worn his pants. However you feel comfortable, right? It's up to you. It's what you're wearing as well.
Got a $2 super chat from Chris.
All right, go ahead.
Smokey, who are the top 5 elite Texan high school football programs?
Oh, dear God. Recently?
No, it's it. Yeah, right.
I know what Chris wants me to say. No, that's Daniel. I think Daniel's the one who we want. North Shore? You're talking about now, right?
I'm guessing.
You think? Let's say right now. You guys can help me along with this. I would say based on bang for your buck, Garrett, you're good at this. I would say if we go highest division, North Shore, Austin Westlake, Duncanville. I know Lake Travis has been down for them the last couple of years, but they got to be a part of that discussion. Carthage. Bang for your buck, Carthage. China Spring beat them last year on the way to a state championship at Carthage. Mart. It depends if you want to do bang for your buck. I don't know if I could do it 5. I don't know if I could stop at 5. South Lake Carroll's a part of that. Allen would be, but, they're in another coaching transition. Lee Wigginton will be a great fit there after the 1 year with Chad Morris. It was good. It's bad when you lose like in the 3rd or 4th round and it seems like it's a failure. But those are some of the schools I think that would be fair to say as far as bang for your buck. And Dan Allen has been down lately, maybe 10 years ago. I don't know if it's been 10 years. Remember that game when they came in and played Waco against Midway and beat them like a dog?
I mean, they just won I could probably find the text on my phone to Terry Gamble when they won the state championship. So
yeah, it'd been 3 years ago or so as way.
Yeah. $5 super chat from Uncultured Barbarian. Not only does Wisconsin have a new OC QB coach, but their O-line coach from 5 years ago is taking over that job again, moving from inside linebacker coach. I like it. And
does anybody do offensive line better? And I love what Eric Mateos has done at Baylor. Does anyone year in and year out offensive line like Wisconsin?
I don't. I mean, they certainly have the proven guys. They're putting guys in the league. They're recruiting well. They develop really well. No, I don't think so. I think Wisconsin's going to go as Graham Mertz goes.
Well, no, I understand that, but they got Allen, the running back.
Yeah.
And then they've, of course, had others along the way. From Dennis, Marlon Brando made high trousers look pretty cool in Streetcar.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. That's back when Marlon Brando was kind of cool and not weird. Post-Godfather, he got weird.
Yeah, that probably took a lot out of him.
Well, I would think so.
Probably took a lot out of him.
Yeah.
A whole bunch out of him. All right, listen, a couple of more questions we have. ESPN has the latest projection, Oklahoma, Baylor. This is from Stubby 1085 in the Big 12 championship with Baylor winning and going to the Sugar Bowl. That would be a repeat of them from a year ago, except last year, of course, they played Oklahoma State. And in the classic, incredible game that Oklahoma State in Stillwater last year, Oklahoma was an eyelash away from being in the Big 12 championship in a repeat the next week, but lost that game. Caleb Williams did everything possible to bring them from behind, fell short, and that allowed Baylor to go and eventually, and yet again, a matter of an eyelash or so, win the game against Oklahoma State. I did see today someone positioned a story about the Big 12. As Texas and Oklahoma have fallen back into the pack, it leaves the Big 12 with a wide open race. See, that's part of their brand issue.
Well, Texas has been in the pack for a while.
Because Oklahoma hasn't fallen anywhere. They happened to not play last year after winning, it seemed like, forever and ever in a row. But there's part of, because Texas and Oklahoma fall backwards, it allows everybody else to play instead of others maybe getting to be to that level of where Oklahoma's been. Not quite, but close.
Oklahoma was this close to being in that championship game last year. So, yeah, falling back, I mean, yeah, they lost one more game than they have in the past, and they weren't in the championship game and allowed Baylor and Oklahoma State to be in it. But they're, back.
Sounds like what you say when you don't really know how to talk about the Big 12 without it being a simple layup of Oklahoma and Texas. Anybody who says that these other championships don't count, that Baylor wins or whoever, it's always a down year. It's always a down year because it's not Texas or Oklahoma. I mean, it's real convenient that the down years only happen when when two schools don't happen to win it. But that just sounds like either Texas or Oklahoma fans' reasoning, or just people who don't know how to talk, intelligently enough about the Big 12 without having the Longhorn or Sooner layup. That's what that sounds like.
It's a very lazy narrative, no question about it. Absolutely a lazy narrative. David Z, thanks for your super chat for a couple of bucks. Iowa State fan just trying to show some love. We appreciate you. Good luck to the Cyclones and Coach Campbell this year as well. Dennis, Carl, I wonder who will win that Texas-Kansas rivalry this year. Boy, that's really become an issue, hasn't it? That really has been kind of summed up the last few years for Texas. All right, when we come back, Jack, we want to announce the programming thing when we come back. All right, we got a note about what we do on Saturdays when Baylor is playing that we'll come back and have for you, and we're excited about and thrilled about. Thanks to a lot of different people that made something happen very quickly. That, and also today, we'll have David Hellman on the Cowboys after their preseason game this past weekend. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. It's in Waco. Located in the Central Texas marketplace, their MRI machine is as good as you can get. State-of-the-art technology. The partners there have done an amazing job, including Dr. Rob Maxey. I have been in the MRI machine to look at my left shoulder, my lower back, and even my abdomen. And it is always the amount of the quick response that I get from Dr. Maxey and the staff is amazing. State-of-the-art technology MRI machine will help you understand what is wrong, what hurts. Your doctor, orthopedic surgeon, or doctor may say, hey, we need to get an MRI. You then suggest to them, and they'll know about Ideal MRI. We've told you the stories about a couple of women who needed to have an x-ray. Had to have an MRI, and they were told that they had to use the health system. Wherever they are, they got in touch with Ideal MRI and saved themselves thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars, and in one case, $1,500. $497 is what it will cost or less. They'll try to help you even offset the $497, which is every single time, but help offset it with insurance papers being filed and checking on that. It's amazing. It's also efficient, and they'll get you in. And sometimes, if needed, they'll wait for when you are available and even keep their doors open a little bit later if, in fact, that works out. At IdealMRI.com.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com. Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
We kind of call ourselves the Wedding Ring Store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves. Probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you can fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
First and goal. He's found 5 different targets. He's going to hand it off. It's Pollard, and he's across for the Dallas touchdown.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of FoxSports.com.
We will get to David momentarily. Cowboys, of course, coming off what seemed like a pretty nice performance against the Chargers over the weekend. We'll get to that momentarily. But we want to let you know that we have announced a content deal with KWTX TV in Waco for the TV broadcast rights, expanding our footprint. So on Baylor game days, we will have a 90-minute pregame show. And the 90-minute pregame show, depending on the kick time where Baylor, when they're playing, we will either be on KWTX, the local CBS affiliate, or on the CW channel. We will go 90 minutes. Whatever we do on game day here will be simulcast exactly on what they do, depending on the game kickoff time, and much more for Baylor football. I got to tell you how this all worked out. We all know Chris Visser. He's a phenomenal guy when it comes to Radio Row. His sister, Leslie, longtime Hall of Fame sideline reporter. He called me one day and he asked me, he goes, hey, are you doing this? And his suggestion did not work out. Eventually, Josh Young, the general manager at KWTX, and I were able to meet. And I'd say about 10 minutes into the meeting, we realized, man, this has an opportunity. I shared it with you guys. We're now going to have the show, what we do on YouTube, what we do online, what we're going to do when the app is completely fixed, and now we'll be on local television at KWTX and the CW channel as well.
Yeah, really excited about it. Really excited to reach a new audience that we haven't gotten before over television and network television here locally. So it should be really fun. And plus we have other options that they'll be able to watch us nightly as well. 10:30 on the CW every night. We'll have a 1 hour program on that as well.
Every night at 10:30, and Emery, of course, and Levi and them will be a part of this as well. we will take what we do, the 3 hours, condense it into being a 1 hour show, late night, Sports 365 late night, sports night, late night, on KW, on CW channel as well. So at 10:30, starting that first week in September, what we do for 3 hours here will be condensed into the better segments, interviews, and topics that we discuss, and that will be on the CW channel starting in September as well at 10:30. Josh Young, the general manager, Darby Brown, also Chris Williams as well, and then engineer Barry Bass, who's been over there with part of his staff as well to make sure we are technologically set up to do what we do. They can listen to us and watch us every single day in their studio or where they are at the TV station across town. All right? Everything good?
Yeah, be cool.
That'd be very, very cool. Paul, thank you very much. Again, thanks to Josh Young. We're going to hear from David Hellman here momentarily. Also, thanks to Brian Etheridge and also Ashley Hodge and Colt Barber. When the idea was presented to them, they went, wow, let's do it. And so we will. And so we look forward to that starting next Saturday when Baylor plays Albany. 90 minutes prior to kickoff, we'll have the pregame show on the CW channel or KWTX, depending again on the kick time. And then the best of the late sports night, late night, 365 late night will be on Monday, Labor Day, the Labor Day Monday as well. We're now joined by David Hellman of Fox Sports, covers the Cowboys. David, how much, just of anything, did Kevontae Turpin give the Cowboys a kick in the pants with what he did on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, he gave him a big kick. I mean, it's one of the more impressive performances I've ever seen in a preseason game. I mean, it's pretty rare to get one return, let alone two in the same game. So, I mean, I wrote about it yesterday. Usually you kind of want to avoid speaking too certainly about anything in the preseason, but, I mean, it was a performance worthy of putting him onto the team if he hadn't already made it.
David, that's something. Look, Tony Pollard returned a kick for a touchdown last year. Bones Fossil has certainly kind of shot some life into that. And Kevontae Turpin, he has the past at TCU, and he kind of fits that Jerry Jones rehabilitation model, doesn't he?
Sure does. Yeah, the Cowboys like taking chances on guys that are cheaper than they probably should be for whatever reason. Obviously, it's interesting. Even with the stuff in his background, it's interesting to me that he's been out of college for as long as he has, and with speed like that, it took as long as it did for him to get an opportunity. Kudos to him for seeming to put his best foot forward. I mean, it's pretty impressive to be the MVP of the USFL, and then the first opportunity that you get in the NFL after that. It certainly looks like he's making the most of it. But yeah, you're right. Jerry Jones loves to look for a bargain, and looks like he might have found one.
The wide receiver is still a big issue. Jalen Tolbert looked like a rookie the other night, and I'm sure that's fine. I mean, it's going to be okay. But at the end of it, the Cowboys week one are really got a problem staring in their face. What do you think they ultimately do about this?
I don't think it's okay. And it's not Jalen Tolbert's fault. It's the Cowboys' fault, because it was always a mistake to assume a third-round pick was going to step in and be a star from the get-go. I mean, a third-round pick can develop into a really good player, but you're putting a lot of pressure on a guy to just be ready for the NFL from day one. And Jalen Tolbert doesn't look like that guy right now. And then, I mean, it's already depth it's already thin even when you don't consider that. I don't know what they do. Obviously, you've got CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz. That's a place to start. But until Michael Gallup comes back, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with Michael Gallup, because if they keep him on the PUP, he's going to miss a month. I have a feeling they're not going to do that. I have a feeling they're hoping he can come back by maybe week 2, maybe week 3, something like that. But even still, you're talking about playing 1 to 2 games at the very least without him. So you're looking at Jalen Tolbert, you're looking at Noah Brown, Simi Fehoko has had a really nice camp. Dennis Houston is another one. But again, I mean, having a really nice camp is not quite the same thing as excelling against the likes of Tampa Bay and Cincinnati to open the season. I don't get the vibe that they're going to go after like a big name veteran. I think they would have done it already if they thought they needed to. maybe they claim a guy off of waivers like they did a couple of years ago with Malik Turner. But it kind of seems to me like they're going to try to grin and get through it until Gallup is healthy again. And based on what we've seen, I'm just not sure that's the smartest idea.
How much is the timing of Tristan Hill knowing that his time with the Cowboys is on the clock, or did all of a sudden he just now get it?
It's hard to answer that. I do think Tristan Hill has probably matured a lot in the time that he's been in the league. That was the scouting report on him coming out of college, is that there were maturity issues. And, Rod Marinelli famously talked the front office into drafting him because he thought he could work with him, which is kind of ironic because he was gone less than a year later. But yeah, I think he's learned a lot about consistency, a lot about taking a professional approach. This is far and away the most impressive he's ever looked. I was happy for him to have a moment like that, because making splash plays in practice when really the only people that see it are us and maybe the grainy cell phone videos that we take. I mean, that's one thing, but doing it on national TV in high definition in front of everybody that's watching is another. So it's been impressive, because I thought he was in a precarious spot when camp started. I'm still not ready to say he's a lock, but I definitely think he's one of several guys on that D-line that's going to give the coaching staff headaches when it comes down to cut the roster.
Do you think Kelvin Joseph is on shaky ground?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, that's a classic case of, like, if Kelvin Joseph was a third or fourth round pick, I would be like, yeah, he's not going to make this team. But he's the top 50 pick and a highly talented guy that comes with all of that. It's very rare to see somebody drafted in the second round get cut before their second season in the NFL. And I know everything about the murder investigation and what he was involved with, which that's just another wrinkle to it. It's totally plausible for me to think the Cowboys are like, man, this guy is a liability off the field and he hasn't been very good on the field. So, I mean, I think it's a testament to what a shaky year he's had that we're even talking about it, because normally you would be like, no, he's a top 50 pick. He's in his second year. There's no way you cut him. Whereas with this, I think it's at least a conversation worth having. But I still think at the end of the day, second year is awfully early to pull the plug on a guy that was drafted 44th overall. So I think it's plausible, but I'd still be kind of surprised to actually see it happen.
There are times when you wonder if the Cowboys ever really, not that they didn't care about the safety position, but it just seemed like it was always, oh, yeah, we got to go make sure we have some safeties. It does appear as if that room is not stacked, but pretty good shape. Your thoughts?
This is the Cowboys version of being stacked, I'll tell you that. 'Cause, I mean, for 10 years, you've just been looking for a warm body that can handle the position competently. And now it seems like they've got about 4 of those guys. Yeah, I mean, nobody back there has ever made it to a Pro Bowl. Nobody back there is playing on a $15 million contract. That's fair. We're definitely not talking about the best safety group in the NFL. But, they found a diamond in the rough in Jaron Kearse last year. Malik Hooker seems like he's ready. He's had a very impressive camp. He was a guy that was drafted in the top 20. It was always health and never performance that got in his way. He seems healthy. Donovan Wilson, I think he's a fan favorite because of the way that he hits and the way that he's always around the football. And then, for Israel Mukuamu to go out, what I thought was really impressive. I mean, the pick is what stands out on tape, but it's very obvious to me that they're asking him to do a lot of the same stuff as Kearse, in the sense that he doesn't line up in the same place twice in a row. He goes down in the box. He plays on the line. He had a couple tackles right there near the line of scrimmage the other night that seemed to indicate that he is a willing and capable run defender. A little bit of this is projection, because some of these guys haven't played a whole lot, but throw in Marquise Bell, and you got 5 that I think they probably feel pretty good about. And that's pretty amazing when you think about where this team has been at safety at times in the past.
All right, taking Kelvin Joseph out of the mix right now, since I just asked you that, who would be the most surprising cut to you if it were today to 53?
I mean, I'll answer the question, but like when this is all you talk about every day, I think I've considered every angle of it. So like, I don't think there are that many that would really shock me. I think that the defensive line is going to be tough. Carlos Watkins is a guy that started. He started like every game he was healthy last year. He was a starting defensive tackle, and I could see them making that decision. Again, I just talked up Tristan Hill, but I don't think I could be shocked by that just because of the numbers, or at the very least, maybe they try to trade him for an asset on cutdown day. I'm trying to think of something that would be like genuinely shocking. Josh Ball would be surprising just because he is their swing tackle right now, but clearly I think everybody agrees that that's something that they could stand to upgrade. And then you're talking about a 4th round pick in his second year. That would be outside of the norm of what they usually do. But like I said, I mean, that just seems like a position where they don't have a choice but to try to upgrade somehow. So yeah, I don't think those are super shocking, but just if you're looking for cuts like that, I would say look toward veteran players that are making more money than their counterparts and also don't have a clear-cut path to the lineup.
David, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
David Hellman, foxsports.com, and he, of course, puts up his notes following the game throughout the week. Cowboys beating the Chargers, and it's still, even to this day, for some reason, I want to always digress into San Diego because I love that city as far as being there whenever possible. But obviously the L.A. Chargers, L.A. Rams sharing the same stadium as well. All right, Garrett, did you get that? I'm going to put this up. Paul, this is for us, but also for you as well. You sent it. Oh, my God, I can't read that. Oh, okay. Let me see if I could try to read that. Good God. This is from Steve. Where is it? From Steve. Those with the most money are usually those with the most power. Warren and the Big Ten are playing that to their advantage. I really would like to see Big 12 try to put him in his spot, knock him down a notch or two. I would like to see Florida State be proactive with the person they hired regarding media rights / grant of rights. If they find a crack in the dam, all hell breaks loose for the ACC and college football.
There's no crack in the dam. I mean, that'd be interesting if there was, but I think they're hiring a person to investigate everything. The only crack in the dam would be if most of the teams got together and said, we don't want to be together anymore. And even then, I don't know how you break it, given that all these schools are writing out their grant of rights. Look, USC and UCLA, I mean, it's this, are going to write it out, they're 2024, right, when they're joining? So they're even going to write it out an extra year, and it's just 1 year. I don't know how you break them because I think those grant of rights are pretty ironclad.
So then how do you take the comments from Florida State on expansion?
Oh, I would love to see Florida State.
I mean, their own president is talking conference affiliations in front of boosters. I mean, he's saying it's something I'm spending a lot of time on and we're getting a lot of help. We're trying to do anything we can to think about how we remain competitive. Florida State's expected to win. We're going to be very aggressive. I mean, that's Florida State's president on realignment.
But I also don't think that you walk in front of boosters and they're like, hey, the president before me, who wasn't all that great at his job, also endorsed signing a 500-year grant of rights. So I don't think you go into them and say that. But, the bottom line is, he can say all that stuff that he wants, but I still don't know. I mean, are they going to – if Florida State's the one to figure out how to break this thing, then good for them, and so they can make some more money because they certainly need it. But I don't know how that happens. I mean, somebody with a legal mind is going to have to explain how you break a contract that has 14 years left on it.
Well, you get you and yourself and a bunch of other guys together, and you all say you're splitting, and all of a sudden that grant of rights just disappears.
Yeah.
So if you are Florida, I mean, that's where, there are definitely accounts out there that are just absolutely throwing complete baby poo against the wall. Mm-hmm. And it's very clear to see, who those are, but there are others that, have insight. It's interesting just kind of sort through what's just realignment babble and what's actually got something to it. But Florida State's name gets mentioned quite often and has been getting mentioned quite often no matter where you look. And here's their very own president 2 days ago talking about how he's spending a lot of time on realignment or on conference affiliation, and that he's getting a lot of help, and they'll do anything they can to remain competitive, and they expect to win, and they're going to be aggressive. And I agree that, there's not much they can do as far as their grant of rights, but if he's feeling that way, and Clemson's feeling that way, and North Carolina was feeling that way, and let's say Miami was feeling that way, well, then, I don't know. I think you could probably get your heads together and figure out some ways to maybe pierce through this, ironclad grant of rights through the next 15 years, or else they're just going to sit around for 15 years and just watch, the Big Ten sign the second deal. And do you really think when the Big Ten signs their second deal, there's not going to be a third deal that probably comes up before the ACC actually gets to renegotiate? Yeah. So you're telling me they're going to do that? They're going to let the Big Ten have not 2, but probably even 3 negotiations before they even get to redo any of their stuff? I don't see how that's going to be.
Yeah, I would like to see them do it. I just don't know how. I mean, again, I don't know what happens and how that makes it worthwhile, because they doubled down on this is how things were going to be, which was at the time it looked like, hey, it's smart to have a stronger grant of rights so that you kind of commit to each other, but then to double down into the next into 2 decades beyond when you made it, to me seems a real short-sighted on the part of the ACC, because this has happened before. Why would it not happen again?
Yeah, it's just another part of this, like the planets orbiting around this story. All the planets are orbiting around the sun, and it's like Oregon, Florida State, tomorrow will be somebody else, and then somebody else. And then there are so many things that you think can happen or might happen, and yet it could be forever. It could not forever. It could be for a long, long time before anything else happens along the way. I do want to say this to the 402 who sent us a long text. I can't read the whole thing, and it's not possible. Well, it's not going to happen, but we've discussed this back even when Baylor and the rest of the Big 12 and TCU and Tech and everybody else, Iowa State, K-State, et cetera, Oklahoma State, when Texas and Oklahoma decided to leave, and what were they going to do next? We've discussed this many times before. But here, and he mentions Navy. And, of course, we've had people mention the military academies, and it's not going to happen. It's right around the Baltimore, D.C. area. We have 50,000 recruits each year. While the majority are not at the academy, they're still part of the branch and potential fans. It's no different, really, Army, Navy, Air Force, is it, than what Brigham Young or Notre Dame have as far as their base? No, I'm not talking about power and brand. As far as where they are spread out throughout the country, the world.
But I remember asking Ian McCall this years ago when we had him on the show, and he's now the AD at Liberty. But when he was at Baylor, I said, well, why would it not? Because why not add those 3 schools? Because the PR for it would be great, and you could seemingly up there, kids would maybe be more interested in taking that if they could play in a conference and win a conference title. And, Army, Navy, Air Force right now don't have any kind of realistic chance to play for a national title, but that's not really why you go there. But there's too many hoops to jump through for the Power 5 to make it worth their while, I think.
And a couple other things he said that this is interesting. People talk about school endowments because we do see that on occasion. Research money. Well, who spends more on research than the U.S. military? I read on Google that Navy spent $20 billion on tech research. Wouldn't the engineering department at Purdue want inroads to some of that money? Then finally, leaders, enough said.
Well,
all of that, check. But again, the realistic part of it, you can't ever see that happen.
Okay, if Navy was valuable, why would they need the Big 12 to be the conference where they finally found a landing spot?
Well, because the sports are not what you're not going, you go there and you get an athletic scholarship, but if you're going into a service academy, your focus is different.
You're going there to serve the
why
country.
would you go to the Big 12?
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? We've been independent all this time.
That's not what this says. This is the Big 12 contacting them.
Okay, well, yeah, that makes it all different. I just think that you've already gone through one round. You've added 4 schools. You've got another round. We've already mentioned at least 4 schools there. You have the potential of the Pac-12 falling apart, perhaps. And the bottom line is we don't know what the Big 12 status is just yet. So, like, I just don't think that when you're dealing with all of those different deals and then whatever is unique to Navy, that's like the first school that pops to mind. And
that's not. This was just a suggestion because of what value they bring. I have said it. It's not going to happen.
Okay.
It's just a fan of Navy and the academies and the military academies that wanted to just say, hey, how about us? No different than we've done with Memphis or Boise State or anyone else.
I think to boil it down, though, simply, though, everything you said about Navy is true, and they bring a ton of that other value. Like, everything kind of checks all those boxes, but there's a reason that they're not in these discussions. Right. And, you know, like, then I'm pretty sure if they wanted to be, they, would change some things up, but I think it's just kind of a different thing.
All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
At Allen Samuels, our great selection of new cars and trucks come with amazing deals and competitive financing that makes you ask, why shop anywhere else? During the Labor Day sales event at Allen Samuels, purchase a new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star and receive values up to $7,000, or choose 2.9% for 72 months and get $2,500 bonus cash and no payments for 90 days. Shop with us today. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one, commercial, farm and ranch, or residential. Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon-wrapped filet. And, of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, behind the bank.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
All right, top 5 coaches with the most pressure, and these jump up significantly each time. Second-year coaches. These are guys hired last year and coming to this year, I think need to kind of show something. Number 5, Shane Beamer. Look, he's going to have a long leash at South Carolina, but with the transfers he's gotten with Spencer Rattler, I think that the Gamecock faithful would like to see some kind of positive steps forward now that he's got a guy who was the number one recruit in all of football just a few years ago. And even though he wasn't great at Oklahoma, his not great wasn't as bad as they've had at quarterback, and he's won a lot of games. He's won a lot of big games. If he can get things right, then South Carolina can maybe, make a little noise this year. But I think there is a little bit of pressure to make that right with Spencer Rattler because they've never had a guy like that there before.
I never thought about him. I thought that he would have plenty of time. And obviously with Rattler, it does maybe make it a little bit more urgent.
Yeah. I just think to make that work puts a little more pressure on you. And look, there's not a whole lot of guys that you really can put on this list anyway. So I had to get to a fifth because it's not the top four. Or really, in the top three in this one are higher than the other two. So number 4 would be Andy Avalos at Boise State. Last year, they were not Boise State caliber what they are, but they like him. But I do think that the natives will start to get restless if they go through 2 kind of middling years at Boise, especially given they're trying to convince people to notice them more.
Yeah, they're definitely in that race to want to be a part of expansion. I just don't see they're in anywhere unless it's the Pac-12 just trying to find schools to basically stay afloat. But yeah, it wasn't the best first year. Jeremiah Dickey's a great AD. That's his hire, so they're going to give him some time to try to build that thing up. And I do think the expansion piece is a bit of a wild card to their ultimate motivation. But I think they're going to give him all the opportunity in the world. There's high expectations out there, but they obviously have a lot of confidence in what he did at Oregon and elsewhere. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they do in year 2.
Yeah. Number 3, Josh Heupel.
Let me ask you something about teams that are bubble teams when it comes to the future. Do they have to? I mean, is it more pressure to win? Not that there's already not a lot of pressure, but someone like Boise State just has to keep building more seats, but they have to be relevant at the top somewhere.
I think so. I mean, if you're Boise State, and you're trying to get in this, I would think it would hurt if you were just blah, because they have enough time to say, like, listen, we've played big teams. We've played big teams on the road. We've beaten Virginia Tech and Oregon and, Oklahoma and Florida State and all these teams. We feel like we can do that on a regular basis. Like, please do it. But if you fall off, then you're like, yeah, but that was then. This is now. Things have changed. Number 3, Josh Heupel did a really good job in his first year at Tennessee. Got a lot of development and growth out of Hendon Hooker. They've got big-time recruits coming in. They've got alumni spending a lot of money. And the reason I put him on this list, even though I don't think he's in any trouble because he's got a fantastic AD in Danny White, but the fans in Tennessee have proven to be, let's just say it, impatient. So if they drop off a little bit, then all of a sudden there's heat on Josh Heupel that didn't exist before, even though it's just his second year in a program that has not been relevant for about 25 years.
The worst thing they could do is make another change.
Yeah, but they just keep, change 24 years. So, but yeah, it's been a while. So it's been them and the Cowboys are kind of on the same trajectory there. Tennessee, they last won in 1998, and then not only have they not competed for the national title since they won it, they haven't really competed for conference titles since they won the national title all that often.
What about division titles?
Yeah, I mean exactly. I mean they were. It was Florida and Tennessee every year in the SEC East, and then after 1998, it was like no. That was it. And they've completely taken that off. So, number 2, Steve Sarkisian. Why is Steve Sarkisian only number 2? Well, you'll find out in a second. But, again, he's in a pressure cooker anyway. This Quinn Ewers thing better work out for him, or they're going to have to go back to the drawing board again with Arch Manning. And there's just so many different things going on. Plus, he's even said that they had bad apples. They needed to, clean out some rough spots and warts last year. So, hopefully for Steve Sarkisian, he can do that. But, again, it still remains to be seen because nobody's done it at that school in a long time as well.
Mm-hmm. I think he's got a longer leash, but with them, you never know.
Again, it's just going to mean –
absolutely. If they were to blank the bed somehow, and it's just another year after last year, but I still think, again, the last thing they need is yet another coaching change.
Yes. And number 1 – considering that they tried to fire him sometime randomly in the spring, Brian Harsin at Auburn. Because this is a fan base that has little brother syndrome really, really badly. And, the program across the state, their biggest rival, is the best program in college football, so you understand that. But they are very reactionary at Auburn. They hired Brian Harsin, brought him down from Boise State, and then they've decided that pretty quickly a bunch of alumni and power brokers decided, no, we don't like this guy. We've got to make a change. And it was just after year one, and that was one of the most bizarre situations I think I've ever seen in coaching. And bizarre situations seem to happen a lot at Auburn, like Bobby Petrino showing up there, or, everything that's kind of got like Terry Bowden all of a sudden getting fired. The way that all that stuff went down, that happens at Auburn a lot. And if you're ever a person who sits and wonders, goes, why does this stuff happen to me a lot? Well, maybe it happens because of you.
Yeah, no, that's a possibility. One of the things about Auburn, have you seen what Gus Malzahn? Now he's having a good run, and they seem to be on the uptick. But Malzahn, in a little way, not comparing him to Dave Aranda in any way, but Malzahn has said he can be himself. Where at Auburn, sometimes that position is in that spot, you cannot be who you are, and if you can, then obviously you're very fortunate.
Yeah, but it's really.
I think Malzahn's having fun again. I think he's had fun when he beat Alabama or beat Saban or whatever, but I'm saying he's having fun day in and day out, because even though there's pressure to win everywhere, the pressure at UCF and kind of the fun uptick of what, like say, the building of it is so much different than what he had to deal with at Auburn.
Yeah. But, the Brian Harsin situation is just weird.
Top 5, what programs eat coaches the most often?
Right
might
now,
be a couple of those on that list.
3 of them on this list right now.
Absolutely. All right. Again, if you did not hear earlier, we announced our partnership with KWTX and CW Channel. Our Baylor pregame show, starting the week when they play Albany to open up. 90 minutes will be here online, the app, but also will be on either KWTX or CW Channel, depending on the kick time. And every weeknight, starting in September, we will have Sports 365 Sports late night, a replay or the best of what we do every day at 10:30 on the CW channel. Levi, Emery, Jack, Paul, Craig, Garrett, Jacob. I'm David Smoak. Thank you for watching Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.